For those curious, 55 represents major life changes, new experiences, and personal growth. We won't touch on any of that in episode, but I figured it'd be okay. No, that, Scott. Just don't do that.
All right, well, we got the cold open taken care of. So that was cool. I don't have anything else to say about it.
There's Grant's face.
I'm sorry. I don't know what I did.
So anyway, back to your regular scheduled program. Oh boy, he's muted now. Scott, is that right? I forget. Sorry,
we're very professional.
We're a G-rated show, but Scott will edit that out. You guys are seeing how the cookies are made.
I thought it was sausage.
Yeah, well, I like both, so I'm cool with that. Ooh, here we go. Back at it again. We are here for episode 55. Thank you so much for listening. There's 5 of us tonight. We're missing our Brit friend. That's okay. We have a lot of crap to talk on him, and I cannot wait to tell you about the bet I'm going to win with him. So with that, let's throw it around the horn and start with TJ. What's new with you?
Sorry, I had to cough right when you said my name. I was like, please don't say my name first. Not a whole lot, honestly. Yeah, I've kind of been in a little bit of a, I don't know, funk, I guess is the best way to put it. I've been really unfocused. I haven't really been building a whole lot. I've been trying. I built and painted the RB armored car from CSM, and then that went nowhere. I built the VT 1-2. That went nowhere. I started working on another mat kit. That one's actually making progress, but I didn't get to do a whole lot this last couple of days. I've been busy. Today I went fishing all day, which was pretty sweet. Caught myself some dinner. But yeah. And I went to a show last weekend, which was really fun. I'll talk about that later.
Nice. I think you missed maybe one highlight. You received something in the mail.
Oh, I totally forgot. I'm really tired. I've been up since 3:00 this morning, so I'm a little gassed now because this is at nighttime when we're recording this. Yes, I did. I got the new book from Lincoln Wright. The Link back report is freaking awesome. It's all about the Mark 44 Ammo Knight / White Knight / Hammer Knight / whatever you want to call it. There's like a million different variations. It's really cool. I'm going to try to do like a little review of it. I don't know if I'm going to record it because I don't like doing that kind of stuff. So I might just take some pictures, talk about it, and put it up on the Facebook page. That will have already happened by the time this comes out. So yeah, it's an awesome book. Thank you to Link. He sent it to me. Personalized it for me, which is even cooler. And it has since taken a hallowed spot on my bookshelf with all my other MacBooks that I got from Mr. Grant Mayberry.
Nice. It's a book I need to order. For our listeners that are curious, you can find the Mark 44 book on paintonplastic.com. It is $50. A little bit of shipping, and it'll get you to the United States. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Doug. How's it been in Utah, my friend?
Well, it's been crazy at my house. For anybody that's ever been interested in allowing their grandchildren to move back in with them, just say no. It's been a crazy house. And so my nights to myself get started really late. Kind of wanted to suck the mojo out of me, but I would force myself to come down. I've got 3 things on the bench. Needed a little bit of just Doug time, so I started the Bandai B-Wing to build for a friend, and I'm loving that. I mean, it's a Bandai, so it falls together. And even though the B-Wing's kind of complex, I'm already almost ready for paint. And then that Tiger build that we started a month or so ago with JB, I finally got the colors I needed, and so that's in paint now. Although I had a little problem. My Badger paintbrush, my Sotar, had the spring fall out of I don't know how it worked its way out because I didn't take that part apart, but the trigger assembly, the spring just came out of it. So I've got the parts ordered. I'm getting a couple new trigger assemblies for that. But while I had that on the bench, I thought if I'm using those colors already, I pulled out a kit that I started a few years ago, which is the Tamiya 48 scale Yag Panther. And so that one also has its first layer of paint on it. It was kind of interesting because the plastic's the same color on both kits, but the Tiger got the mahogany Mr. Surfacer paint, the primer on it, and the difference in seeing the primered one with the same color over it is really kind of amazing. The Tiger looks really, really sharp with that color underneath it. So that's where I am at this point.
Very nice. I'm going to kick it over to Grant. We're going to go a little bit further west. Grant, what's on your bench? How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. I finished up my Ogre for Orange Con, which was last weekend. A great show. Sorry, I'm going to give them a little promo here. Over 530 models showed up. I was there, met some great people, had some fun time, talked to a lot of models. I was able to help judge, so that was fun. After that, I've just kind of been trying to get things straight. I'm getting ready to go to Fresno in a couple of weeks up to their show at IPMS for the Fresno show. So that'll be fun. I can't wait to do that with them. That's about it. I really haven't been building. I've been a little bit busy with work and stuff like that, but I've been painting a few figures. So I'm trying to keep busy.
You're going to have to let me know next year when Orange Con's going to be, because I've got friends down there I'd love to see. Give me an excuse and I'll be there.
That event looked awesome. And I know we're going to cover it a little bit more in the near future. So we will come back to that topic, and especially what they had on the table, showing the visitors. So, Scott, I'm going to kick it over to you. I know you've just finished that A-Wing, so...
Yeah, just still on the high from the IPMS Salt Lake show, and I won't talk a lot about that because we'll talk about that later in the segment when we bring some special guests on board. But John came over. We almost got Grant. We're hoping to get him maybe in the future, but we had Doug and a bunch of local guys, and we had Patrick Brown from Virginia. The Nofels came, Hank and Dan. I mean, just Doug Reed and some of the guys from Oregon. It was just awesome, and Steve Baker came with JB, and John Everett came, and just awesome. Great time. So that was fun. Got my Y-Wing done, which is great. Shows are really great. They'll give you motivation. So I finished that, and that was really good. I'm glad to get a project in the case. So that was great. Kind of at a point where I've got the bench all cleared, a project's been finished, and sort of waffling between a number of projects that I want to really dive into. So kind of as a palette cleanser, I've grabbed the T90A in 148 scale, and I've been playing around with that. I got the lower hole finished and started on the upper hole, just kind of playing around with that. I don't have a plan yet, but wanted to keep, building and working on that. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. Been a little bit busy. Went to LA last weekend to see a concert that I was really excited about. And LA was great, except for the traffic, which is just, like nuclear holocaust terrible. But other than that, it was a great experience. The concert was great. Went down to San Diego and played around on the USS Midway, which is always a good time as well. Yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Yeah, that trip looked absolutely fantastic. You almost paired it with Orange Con. You were so close, man.
Yeah, Sean Earl, good friend of mine. He was actually down there for that, and it didn't quite work out, but I almost was able to do that. And if I played my cards right, I'm going to be in Chicago here later in the month, and I think I'm going to be able to go to MMSI, and I am really, really excited to kind of visit that show. So lots of shows, and the more the better, man. It's been quite a year already, and it looks like we're not done yet.
Yeah, MMSI is a fantastic show. I have not been, but those are the same folks that put on World Expo back in 2017. Absolute killer, stellar work every time they have their show. People fly in from, overseas. You have John Rosengrant, Bill Horan's home stomping ground. Shep Payne was there. That is the show of shows, and Barry and Jim DeRogatis from Small Subjects are an integral part of that. So that's really cool that you get to go see them, and get to meet a lot of people that, quite frankly, are Titans. So I'm a little jealous. If you have time, check out M and Models there. It is a small hobby shop out near Midway, ran by Marty and Mary. And again, it is armor modeler's paradise. So yeah, it's great.
I've actually done some mail order models from them in the past, so kind of familiar with them. But what about you, JB? What have you been up to?
I've been building a lot. I've been very fortunate in a sense where I have been able to power through things. I am working on my 4th build to finish after the Nationals. So I had KV, Tiger 1, the VT, and now I'm almost done with the Stug 3, which is the Urshats M7. I also have a Samwa in primer, which we'll talk about later. And then I also have a Panther G for a special project that just got base coated. So it is, I'm drinking that TJ Kool-Aid and not messing around and just crushing it. And hopefully some of these will be done in time. I know they'll be done actually in time for Telford, which is only a few short weeks away, where I'll win a Comet from our good friend Ivan. Since he isn't here, maybe I can give an update for him, since he's been trying to renegotiate, I should say. So listeners, if you see me randomly post a comment, the Tamiya comment on Ivan's page, it's because we made a friendly wager. He is building 3 F-14 148 scale Tomcats from Tamiya, and he thinks he'll get them done by Telford. I don't think so. So we put on a friendly wager. He initially wanted to do the new Andy's headquarters, Sherman. And I was like, that's a little bit too much. Let's peel it back. How about a Comet? So if he can deliver 3 brand new finished F-14 Tomcats at Telford, I will buy him the new Comet. If he does not, he buys me a Comet. So I like to remind him of that. So on Ivan's bench, he just finished the Mac build, which looks awesome. Desolate, his little vignette. He's got a little music tune on it. And then he's preoccupied and occupied until the show with 3 F-14 Tomcats from Tamiya.
Nice. I know we've kind of talked a little bit about shows, but TJU and Jackson went to a show, didn't you, here pretty recently?
No, just I went to a show. Jackson,
oh man,
Jackson flaked on me because kids these days don't know how to drink alcohol and wake up in the morning like real men and get done what they need to get done. I guess little kids need their beauty rest. As our friend Aaron can attest, real men can drink till 3:00 in the morning and be up at before 8:00,
especially for a model show.
Yeah, especially for a model show. So no, it was just me, and some of my other friends were there other than Jackson. It was the National Capital Model Soldier Society 61st annual show. I think I talked about it in the last episode. It is, much like the show you're getting ready to go to, a full-on figure painting show, if the name didn't give it away. Really cool, pretty small. But according to David Hoffman, who I've met at other shows, he's also a member of this organization. This year was 40% larger than last year. So I think I was just looking at it. They just posted all the pictures on their Facebook page. I think they had over 50 entrants, maybe like 55, and I think close to 300 individual models on the table. Now, some of these were like collections, right? I brought a collection, which placed gold. Thank you. Yeah, it was really cool. So this was my first like true open judging style show. And for anyone that has lived under a rock for the last whatever years, in an open judging, you're judged against like a rubric, right? Like against a standard. It's not, doesn't matter what else is on the table. It's what you brought. And I've made no secret that I prefer that because I like to reward modelers for their hard work, no matter what it is. And this reflects that. So it was cool to be able to actually do something in practice that in theory I've supported for a number of years. So it only strengthened my resolve to say that is I think, most rewarding and most fun way to run a show, because at the end of the day, I was rewarded for my individual effort, which feels good. I entered 4 categories out of 6. So it's not like a standard IPMS show where there's 1/35th scale armor Allied prior 1945, 1/35th scale armor German prior 1945 ad nauseum. There's science fiction figures, science fiction fantasy painting, science fiction fantasy open, which is like conversions and scratch builds, historical painters, historical open, same thing except for history, ordnance, which is armor, dioramas. So that might even be it. There might have been one more. I don't remember. So yeah, I entered in 4 categories. I got 2 golds, a silver, and a bronze. I was happy with the results. In retrospect, because I'm used to IPMS standard, when I was talking to Barry Biediger from Small Subjects, when he was curious what the bronze was, I showed him, and he's like, yeah, I would have talked to the judges about that one just to see what they saw. I didn't even think about that because I was not complaining that I got a bronze, but I was genuinely interested as to what made that a bronze compared to something else that I painted months before that was awarded a gold, that I personally think is just is good, if not as good, but whatever, who cares? It was really fun. I saw my friend Dan with his 2 daughters who were lovely. My friend Nelson was there and my friend Vivian was there. We went out to lunch with Dana from Central PA IPMS, I think he's Central PA IPMS, and he's a big AMPS guy. Super nice guy. We went and had some pizza. I met Petra Kaiser, another local guy. You've probably seen him in our Facebook groups. Super nice guy. It was really fun. I can't wait. I'm going to go next year. And yeah, it was great. Figure shows are cool. If you haven't been to one, you should go to one. They're pretty cool, even as a scale model builder, because that's what Ordnance is for. I brought a tank, so that was cool.
All right. The Triple P is sponsored by Tankcraft.com. Tankcraft makes some of the most fabulous scale modeling accessories and modeling tools for your bench. Want to keep extra thin off your bench and in the bottle where it belongs? Check out the Tankcraft Glue Base, designed to stop glue spills. It's made from solid milled aluminum, comes with a stable rubber base pad, and can accommodate most square and round cement bottles. While you're there, check out their line of cutting mats and other unique modeling tools. Posse fans can get 15% off their first order using the code POSSE15. So go ahead and head on over to Tankcraft. That's TANKRAFT.com.
Yeah, next time that Ivan joins us, we'll have him talk about his glue base and how much he loves it.
oh man. See, this is what happens when you don't show up, Ivan.
Wow.
Hey, speaking about Tankcraft, have you guys seen the new BF 109
Looks good
mat that's coming? Man, that's really sharp.
I love the color.
And I have his Hellcat tracks now too. So Brad, fantastic work on that. Unbelievable quality, and I cannot wait to use them.
Yeah, I'm going to be building the T3485 by RFM again because I have the tracks for it. I just want to use those tracks, and the kit's pretty good too.
TJ, tell us about the group build.
All right. Well, it's, timely with the release of Link's book. We are up to 245 members. It's been going fantastic. Now, obviously, not everyone is in the group is going and so forth. There's a lot of people just enjoying the builds, building along. Link mentioned it when he was on the bench last weekend and had nothing but positive things to say about it. Of course, the OTB guys are great. They think it's wonderful too. So, guys, if you're listening, thank you. You guys have been nothing but generous to us anyways, and that was above and beyond. So, thank you. It truly means a lot.
And that was a fantastic interview OTB had with Lincoln. I thought it was really, really well done. Major credit to Dave, Ian, and Julian. Just, again, really good. Our listeners, well worth a listen. And I need to buy that book.
Yes, you do. It's pretty good. Yeah, so as far as the group goes, still plenty of builds going on. Some ones I would like to highlight is Cliff Herring's build of a Mark 44. His own words, he's a very slow builder, but it's paying off because he's adding a lot of details. The Mark 44 kit's fantastic. If anyone that's built one knows that it's good. It's a Hasegawa kit. It goes together perfectly. It's cool looking. It's large. It's got everything you want, right? But like any kit, especially science fiction kits, there's always room for improvement or additions. And he's doing a very good job on that. He's replaced a bunch of the bolts with like these cool 3D printed conical bolts. He's added grab handles / steps to the legs. So if you've ever seen a Mark 44, the legs are pretty tall. And I told him it looked really cool. And he's like, well, yeah, I looked at it. And I was like, well, if someone was going to climb into this thing, that's how they would do it. And when you put the figure next to it, like, oh, yeah, that makes total sense. That is how you would do it because there's no other way to do it. So,
His
yeah.
foundry markings are awesome.
Yes. And he has covered that thing in foundry markings, which is awesome. I love, I know they're not long for this world, but those Archer foundry resin decals are their best product. I love them. I have a set. I should probably try to get some more before they're gone forever. Hopefully someone will do those again.
Yeah.
And then there's been a couple of good discussions about obtaining kits. And we'll talk about that again real quick. And I had to remind my friend Dan this. Sprue Brothers in the United States or in North America sells all the Hasegawa mat kits for like really good prices. And often on their Lightning deal, like earlier this week, where they had the Lunar Diver Stingray on Lightning deal for, I want to say $45-ish.
Yeah, it was less than 50.
Yeah. That's one of the kits I don't have. So I was like, I can't not buy it. Right. So I definitely got it. But they have I know we mentioned it before, but they have the Falk, the Mark 44
Nut Rocker,
which is awesome. One of the coolest kits. The Luna Diver, the 1/35th scale, a lot of the suits that Hasegawa also makes.
Yep.
So that's a good place to get them from. And of course, Hobby League Japan for new releases. And as I've told people multiple times in the group when they've asked about it, just be patient. You will find good deals. I'm living proof of that. I have a whole closet full of them. So yeah.
Same.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know Grant knows too, as a longtime Mac guy, because you guys might know this, but quite a number of those, a fair amount, were a good deal that I got from Grant. So awesome people like Grant exist that will give you deals. Just don't pay too much. There's no reason to. Even if, like the Rappoon is an awesome suit, it's not worth $100.
No.
$50? Yeah, I'd definitely go for it, even though it retailed for like 32 or 35. But if you get it from Japan after shipping, that's about what you're paying for it. I mean, I would jump on it, but anything over that is awesome. I mean, unless you have to have it, I would say just bide your time. Someone will sell one.
I'd just like to add to the group build that if you are looking for a kit, if you need a kit, I was fortunate. Now, these aren't plastic kits per se, but they are very similar. I have a bunch of 35th scale suits, the Melusine, and a few, they're like SAF kind of suits. Anyway, they're toys, but you can strip them and paint them. So if you're looking for something to build, you're not sure what you want to build, if you just want to try out Mac, I have about 10 of them. If you're a listener and you're interested in joining, if you're going to Nats, if you'd ship it back to us, that'd be awesome. I will send you one. You can strip it, you can repaint it, make it your own, and then either bring it to the show and put it on the table with us, or ship it back to me and I'll gladly take it to the show for you. We want to see as many people get involved with this as possible. And when I was at a local swap meet, a guy had a box of them. I got a killer deal and I want to share the wealth with everybody listening. So please reach out if you want to participate and you just haven't had a chance to buy a kit or just looking to test the waters with Mac.
One other thing I want to mention is in our next episode, episode 56, we will be making an announcement of a new sponsor for this group build, and a little bit of a tease. That sponsor will have something to do with one of the rules of the group build, and I'm going to leave it right there. But stay tuned next episode for that. We're very excited about this, and I think all the members of the group build will be excited about it as well.
All right. Now we're going to transition over to a favorite segment of ours that we brought back recently, and it's going to be the social media shout out. And I'd encourage my co-hosts to jump in and contribute to some of the topics I picked because I've seen them like and comment on them. The first I want to highlight was posted in the Plastic Posse group, and it was just recently. It's Joel Munson's Sunken TIE Fighter. Gents, how sweet is that?
Yeah, that is a beautiful, beautiful build. I love that thing a lot. It's great.
Yeah, the water, it's so stunning when somebody brings that level of realism to a sci-fi build. It's, a lot of times some sci-fi builds tend to be a little bit, I don't mean this in a real negative way, but just sort of sterile, because a lot of the craft that you're modeling, it's in a cartoon or it's in a movie. And so it doesn't really have the chance to get real down and dirty with the environment. And yeah, I mean, he just crushed it on this build. It's really stunning.
It's sitting in water, but it's murky water, and it looks like real murky water. It doesn't look like, it's not uniform in color. You can see it transition towards the bottom to an even murkier, muddier bottom, and the moss and the grasses growing in it it's out of this world.
Yeah, I think it's really well done. So the next topic, the next social media shout out is to a company. And I'd like to shout out to Mia's latest post of their F-35A. They posted a built one that has a little bit of a pin wash on it, a little panel line wash that really accentuates a lot of those details. The ram panels, the undercarriage, the landing gear bay is absolutely stunning. I almost want to do it inverted so you can see the thing with the gear doors open. Grant, I got to kick it to you. What did you see when you held it in your hands? Is it all what I mean, it's awesome, right? I'm speechless, to be honest.
Yeah, it's all that in a bag of Cheetos. As someone said there, the Tamiya guys were at the OrangeCon show and they had the sprue shots out. And I got pictures of it for everybody and posted them online. The detail alone, the decals alone, there's like three sheets of decals with this thing. It's unbelievable. The detail for the landing bays, the bomb bays, and everything is such a great. It's so Tamiya, but it's Tamiya a step up. We always think we see the best of Tamiya, but they stepped up again. This kit is gonna be flying off the shelves. It literally is. I mean, that's a pun. I guess flying F-35, but it's such a beautiful kit. And talking to George, and the others there from to my. It took them almost 5 years to get this done, because there was a lot of, it was a classified aircraft for a long, long time, and you had to get PAOs that would say, yeah, here's some pictures of it. Here's some close-ups. They had to get in, and that's why they did the A model, is because they couldn't get the C model like it seems like some people want instead of an A model. But, that's down the road,
Yeah.
And it is that you can't get an active duty, brand new active duty aircraft images that you want, especially an aircraft like that, right away.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Grant, because there's a lot of discussion. Every time Tamiya releases something, you got a lot of celebrating and a lot of gnashing and wailing and everything. But Tamiya's done a great job with the marketing. I mean, the A model is in service all around the globe with so many customers. Yep. You've got the Israelis, on and on and on that are using this thing, Australians. It's going to be, you've got to think it's going to be globally just a huge success for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is just, I mean, they promoted it very well, big posters and everything like that, and I want to bring up, they also had the comment there, and I got to see that. And that's a beautiful kit. And when John wins that from Ivan, because, Ivan's going to have one done, maybe, but F-14 done, not even one. So John, you're going to love that kit. That kit it's a complete rebuild. I thought they would have used the old chassis from the old Cromwell. No, it's a beautiful, beautiful kit. That's going to be another great kit.
I can hear from across the pond the sounds of keys being depressed on a keyboard right now.
Yeah, it's Ivan, you couldn't make it. I'm sorry, but that's why you're not a world power.
That's right. So actually for that F-35, what I'm really stoked to see is the aftermarket companies coming out with the mirror-like finishes. So I don't know if you gents have been following, but there's some pictures from the desert of some F-35s operating both C and A models, I believe, with mirror-like finishes. Some of them have more of a graphite tone to them, and some of them have a scallop on the wings. And, it all kind of emanates from the Sensor Spud program back in the 90s with the mirror-like F-117. So bottom line is, in terms of unique finishes, I don't think you can get anything better than that, especially with some of those panels being like two-tone and iridescent. So I look forward to the many possibilities that kit offers. And also it's the external stores on it look great too. The bombs, the pilot as well, that's going to be in it. I mean, it's flawless. It's Tamiya.
Yeah, that pilot is beautiful. The helmet on that pilot is fantastic for 148 scale. It is really beautiful. That's going to be, that is definitely, and they show it with a pin wash on their page now, and it's nice. It really is nice.
Yeah. And I'm going to continue with the aircraft theme for our next social media shout out. Shane Doak's F4 Phantom that he's recently posted online. Absolutely killer. Shane's a good friend of the pod, good friend of some of our close friends, and his work is always, a highlight on the internet when it's posted, and his F4 is no exception. It is gorgeous. I love the giant chest piece, right next to the intake. It's, I love all the remove before flight tags, and it's really got that heavy, just weathering, worn on the radome, heavy panel lines, a style that I really like. And it's really flashy, poppy, and just very well done. So awesome work, Shane. Anybody else catch that online?
Yeah, it's beautiful. His attention to detail is really terrific. And, shout out to Shane. He's actually coming to Utah for a couple of weeks. So we're going to hang out, go down to MRS, cause some trouble together. Looking forward to that. But yeah, I think Shane indicated, John, that's going to be published here, I believe, pretty quick. So nice. Should see that in a magazine.
And I'll finish off social media shout outs real quick with AO Mecha. It's a Instagram page. I encourage everyone to go over there and look, like, and follow his work. Had a chance to meet him in Salt Lake. He was out there for their Comic-Con and stopped by the show because some local Gundam builders invited him over, and super nice gentleman. Really, really nice to meet him. I think it'd be great to have him on the pod sometime. Maybe we'll have a Gundam roundtable with him and Josh and a few others. I think it'd be great to expose us to a community that we're really not used to and really want to learn more about. And one of the things that sticks out to me and why I chose his profile is just, I'm always amazed with the photography of Gundam modelers. If you go to his page, you'll see a lot with their benchtop shots, but man, they are lit really, really well. And I'm talking different colored LEDs, background with, certain, I wouldn't say product placement, but the way, things are, they're just very well composed photographs. Also dynamic as well in terms of poses with the with the mechas themselves. So huge shout out to him. Really admire his work, and it was really great to meet him in Salt Lake, and hopefully we'll have him on. So again, go over and check out AO_mecha on Instagram.
Yeah, it's a great recommendation, JB. I think a lot of these Gundam guys, like our buddy Joshua Scott up in the Pacific Northwest, their photography and composition skills are really next level. You know, the Gundams with the towers, and I mean, they just do a really great job on the presentation. You know, that final 5% that we've talked about on this show quite a bit. They really got that piece of it down, and man, it was great to meet him. And he's also a good friend of Mike Rinaldi's, and we had a good conversation about that. But super great guy. I'm really glad he took the initiative to scoot over from the Salt Lake Fan X and come see the model show.
And with that, Scott, why don't you introduce us to our special segment that's closely tied to that?
Thanks, JB. Well, we are going to hear for a kind of a roundtable discussion that's kind of a summary of the recent Salt Lake City IPMS show. As you guys have heard on here, we had a great local model show here. I've been going to these things for quite a while. It's probably one of the best shows we've had in Salt Lake City for a while. We had a lot of participation, not only from people here in the state of Utah, but people coming from out of state, and including a lot of our friends. So without further ado, here's that segment.
Okay, listeners, now it's time for a special little segment highlighting a event we just went to where we saw some old friends and met new ones. And that was the IPMS Salt Lake show on the weekend of September 24th. And it was much more than just a show, but an entire experience that started several days beforehand and ended a couple days after. So with that, we're just going to go around the room and have a good old chat and relive the weekend's events, talk about what we love, what we didn't get to do, unfortunately, maybe because of time crunches, and what we saw on the table that was awesome, some of the sights, some of the food we ate, and, missing our dear friend Ivan. But before we really get into all of that, we have two special guests with us. We have Josh Buck and John Everett, longtime listeners, supporters, and friends of the show. I'd like for them to give a brief introduction. I'll kick it over to Josh real quick, then we'll hit John, and then we'll get right into the event itself. Josh, how are you tonight?
I'm doing pretty good.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us your background, what do you enjoy to build, and what's on your bench right now?
Well, it's a good question. I started off modeling World War II aircraft. My grandfather was a Navy pilot. He started in 42 and ended in 74. And he's the one that kind of got me into modeling. So my initial love was aircraft, but nowadays I build anything. I just like building models. I don't care if it's a figure, an airplane, a tank, a sci-fi. I love all of it. Right now on my bench, I have a Arma Hobbies KI-84. It's a really nice little kit. It's going together pretty quick. I'm loving that, but I've been modeling pretty much ever since I was a little kid. I never really took a break. It slowed down a little bit in college and grad school. But yeah, I got probably a lot more serious into it about 10 years ago, and I feel like I started getting decent at it like 6 months ago. So that's where I'm at right now.
Josh is being modest. He's a really talented modeler, and he also is a 3D printer. Helped me with a base for a model that I took to the show as well. So
I just like to play with all of it. So yeah, I do some 3D printing as well. I just love every aspect of the hobby. It's cool to build stuff, watch something come together. That's what I like about it.
Nice. And that's a great theme to pass off to our next guest, John Everett, who I like to always say online, what would John Everett do? Because he embraces that mantra where have fun. So John, how are you tonight?
I'm well. Thanks for asking. Thanks for having me on.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe give our listeners a peek behind the curtain at some of your unique creations that we'll definitely get into.
There might be some curtains or rocks under which you don't want to look, but everyone else, same story. I had the little models as a kid, went away, came back a few years ago. And a big part of it was coming back was we ended up moving overseas. I lived in Abu Dhabi with a family for a couple of years, and I was big into radio control and couldn't do that out there. So I got into scale modeling and brought that hobby back home with us when we got home about 11 years ago. And I've just kept doing it since. But I started conventionally building dioramas, doing armor models, Jeeps. Jeeps are still among my favorite thing. And I like Scott's 16 scale Jeep that he's got. That's pretty nice. And gradually moved out of the conventional stuff. It was some of the Star Wars movies that got released, and I thought, I could build one of those. And I started buying styrene sheet and scratch building stuff, and found that I really kind of liked scratch building the science fiction topics. That didn't mean that it limited me to just that, but the science fiction has then led to wildlife, and Scott Gentry seems to like my dinosaurs a little bit. So I've been having fun with that, but still conventional models are on the table. There's a series of kits that are in large scale, 1/20th scale. There's Cessnas. There's a Cessna. There's a helicopter. There's a Japanese 4-seat trainer that's in the series. But I like to do civilian types. If I bought a military model, I would paint it in civilian colors. And nothing against those guys that like to do the camouflage, but I like the more bright and interesting things, which is what I'm finding that I do in the science fiction world as well.
I'm going to echo what Scott said for Josh. Our listeners, John's being modest. He's definitely world class. Some of his dinosaurs could literally be in the Smithsonian because they're awesome. I had the pleasure of buckling one in my back seat. But John is also known for some of his unique creations. And I got to tell a personal story real quick. We were at Colpar a few months ago, and we're looking in the secondhand stash, or maybe it was the new stash. It was along that back wall.
Oh no, that was secondhand. That was third or fourth hand. That was. These are the models that nobody wants. You go to the club auction, and the guy's like $1. Okay, look, we'll take 3 of these boxes. How about 50 cents for 3 of these boxes? It was that model. It was that
kind of model.
It was that model. Yeah.
It was even bigger than a 1-to-1 scale. I feel
it was. Well, I guess to clarify this is an old Lindbergh kit from about 1968, 67, and it is what they call the Great American Bullfrog. And it is a green, sort of a clear plasticky green bullfrog. The top and bottom halves come together. There are internal organs. You're meant to sort of like one of these visible man, visible woman, visible horse that we all know that Lindbergh made. And this one's a bullfrog, a visible bullfrog. And so John said, "You ought to buy that." And I said, okay, you effing dare me? All right. You've thrown the gauntlet down. That's fine. I shall pick it up. And so brought that home, forgot all about it. And I'm not sure how the Mach-E build began happening on the PPP. I don't know. It was a fever dream. I was high on roofies. I don't know. and I thought, you know what? I could make a Mach-E model out of the Great American Bullfrog. And it was one of those really weird ideas. And I went with it. And you know what? It hasn't turned out half bad. I've been pleased with it. It's been fun. It's dumb
awesome
model.
Man.
But if people get a little laugh, if people get a little smile, I think a lot of my work comes down to people just getting a little bit of a smile, a little memory of something they did in their childhood or something like that. I'll let those serious guys build the Tamiya models because they're really, really good. Those guys are really good, and I'll never be as good as those guys. But if I can build a little something that kind of makes people smile and remember what they did as in childhood or something their kids really enjoy, if you can show your model to a 9-year-old and their eyes light up, then you've succeeded.
I'm going to nominate you for a Nobel Prize for actually making something useful out of a horrible Lindbergh kit. I mean, it's really cool what you're doing with it. But,
I'm not sure we could call it useful, but hey, if it gets a laugh, it gets a laugh. That's all that matters.
So a couple hours before that, we'd been at Aberdeen Books, and John says, "Hey, look at this." And they had like a few copies of a book, a photographic book about frogs. Big, giant, hardbound, beautiful photography.
Yeah, it's
wrapped in plastic. And he said, "You should get this." I think we both bought one. And so frogs. I mean, it was really funny that right after that, John hands him this model, and there you go.
It was like in the Star Wars movie where the little boy Anakin is discovered, and I've sensed a convergence in the Force. That's what this was. Benani said, here's a frog model. You should do something with that. And then Doug found the frog book, and that's exactly what we should do. There's a confluence in the modeling force. And so now I'll get that finished in the next couple of days. I'll put it up on a stand, and we'll put it in as the part of the Mach-E group build next year. So that should be fun. I
love it. Some people see coincidence. I see providence. So I'm ready. I cannot wait. And we'll certainly talk more about your pieces. And one of the big pieces, and I'll just start off by, how did this event, transpire going to Salt Lake? And I think the first, step in the direction towards Salt Lake was John stopping by my house the Thursday night before the show because he was going to fly there, and he dropped off Philip and his friends. Maybe tell our listener who Philip is and then who his friends are. And then Scott certainly has a personal story with Philip as well from a year or two ago.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because Philip made the Las Vegas show, didn't he?
Yeah.
So as part of this whole science fiction, unusual model kind of road that I went down, I started doing some dinosaur kits. There's a number of really good resin manufacturers out there. Most of them are they're holocast, rotocast resin kits. They come in 5 or 6 big pieces. You glue them together. You have to fill up the seams with epoxy putty and do a nice job of that. But then they're a dinosaur. You can paint them any way you like at all. And I did a couple. They turned out okay. But I finally got this big one. It was a Parasaurolophus, was this species of dinosaur. It was a duckbill dinosaur, essentially, one of those of that group. And it was from Masterpiece Models up there in Portland by John Geigel, who we know here on the show. And I don't know if he's got any more in stock. He may, but Masterpiece Models has a good number of dinosaur kits in resin if you're interested in that. But I bought this big Parasaurolophus. It's 1/15 scale. He's about 3 foot long, nose to tail. A beautiful sculpt, really a nice pose. And so I painted that up. It took roughly 11 hours of airbrush time to paint that Parasaurolophus. And the kids ended up naming this particular dinosaur Philip, because Philip the Parasaurolophus. So that's a little joke there. But yeah, Philip lived up on our fireplace. He lived up on the fireplace for, I don't know, he's the only model I really display are the dinosaurs. And he was up there for 4 or 5 months, and I took him to Vegas, and sure enough, he took first place in the dinosaur category. Now, I don't know if that's saying much, because usually there's never more than 6 or 7 entries in the dinosaur category, but he's big, he's dramatic. One of the things I did with him, I replaced the eyes that are cast into the head. You drill them out and you replace them with taxidermy eyes, and these particular eyes belong to a shark. I didn't want quite the dinosaur bird, raptor bird look to this, because these were a plant eater. I wanted him more like a sheep, more like a goat, but not quite. These little shark eyes were 8 millimeters, and they looked about right. So I put those on there, and sure enough, he kind of brought him to life a little bit. And I did some other dinosaurs. There's a guy out in Missouri near St. Louis. His name is Shane Fulks. His website is Cretaceous Creations, if you're interested in that. I believe that Shane may be the most skilled dinosaur sculptor in the United States. There's some good guys out in Eastern Europe, and China. But here in the U.S., I think Shane Fulks might be the guy. And he does all sorts of nature models, everything from dinosaurs in large and small scales to Ice Age, woolly mammoths, and he's doing some other tarsiers and just big animals. And he works for museums. He's a professional. He makes his living doing dinosaurs. Good guy to work with, real solid. He can take a while if you order something. It'd take a while for him to get it cast, because he doesn't do casting until he has enough orders to fill up the books. But started doing a lot of those, and so now we have Terrence and Philip. We have Philip the Parasaurolophus. We have Terrence the Torosaurus. And Stego Steve. We can't forget Stego Steve. We love that guy. And then there's a new one I'm working on now, again from Shane Fulks. This is another big model, about 3 foot, nose to tail, and he is a Pitacosaurus, or PIS anyway. It's a parrot lizard is what it is. They had a parrot beak on them. They were plant eaters. And what's good about this particular one, they say we're sort of the sewer rat of the dinosaur age. There were over 100 of these skeletons have been found. And so they've got really good data on what these animals look like, because they have multiple samples of them. They've even got some of them were so well preserved. They've got not just skin texture, but actual coloration in the skin. Browns and reds and red browns are pretty much what they're sure of based on the proteins that they're discovering. And most of them are coming out of China, but the Pitacosaurus was from Shane, and I bought one at Wonderfest back in June. And that's currently on the basement floor, getting ready for paint, probably over the winter time. And in that case, I took out the resin eyes and I put in the bobcat eyes. So I'm hoping that model will turn out pretty well, and we'll see how that one goes.
I'm sure it will. I got to spend a lot of time with your work in Vegas, and really, got to judge that category. And, those eyes that you're using, it's kind of freaky as you're judging a model. You don't usually, as an IPMS judge, have an experience where the subject actually kind of seems to follow you around with its eyes. And that's kind of the effect that you have. But, just beautiful, beautiful work on those, John, and fantastic. Really, really glad they got to come over to Salt Lake as well.
They did the whole collection. I think I had 6 dinosaurs on the table out in Salt Lake. Yeah.
Yeah, you were the category, which is awesome.
I guess I was. Yeah, there were no other dinosaurs in Salt Lake, which is unfortunate. I like the guys bringing the dinosaurs.
And then John and his dinosaurs weren't the only passengers that you had coming over from Colorado.
Correct. Yeah, I drove a little bit north. So we left on Thursday. The show was Saturday, but we wanted to get in a little bit early so we could enjoy Salt Lake because I'd never been to Utah. And one of our listeners, great friend, Steve Baker, he lives a little bit north of Denver, was kind enough to join me along the ride. What he didn't know is he actually drove the whole way because I'm like, oh yeah, I took the afternoon off. No, I didn't. I worked the whole way. So I really appreciate his ability to drive across one of the most boring states, Wyoming, and then down into Salt Lake. But to be honest, I'm used to Kansas and Iowa, so I thought actually Wyoming was pretty beautiful. We stopped at the Little America rest stop. It's like an oasis. It looks like something out of Virginia in the middle of Wyoming. Very green and luscious, very touristy. So stop by that. And then we also stopped by a Voodoo and an M60. It was in a road stop. I'm trying to think off the top of my head the town, but Shane Doak had been there, and he actually grew up in the town, which was Rock Springs. That's it. And he grew up in the little town. He's like, oh yeah, stop by there and check this stuff out. So we did a quick detour and then jumped back on I-80, which it's right off I-80. You can actually see the vertical stab off the road. And then we got into Salt Lake that evening. So it was great. As soon as we went through Park City, my laptop died, and that was it concerning work until Sunday evening. And then we cruised in and we met Scott and Josh Buck at a really sweet spot in Salt Lake and had a great dinner. And I'll let someone else tell the story about the check because I feel like since it involved me, I can't tell the story. But Scott, maybe I'll kick it over to you.
Well, we went into this place. It's called Strap Tank Brewery, and Josh kind of recommended it. Great place. I'd never been there. But as usual with us, when we go in for dinner, we usually close the place down. And, we were there talking and talking and talking. We finally got the hint when the employees started doing a combination of staring at us and then also taking all of the chairs on the tables all around it and putting the chairs up on the tables and then resuming the staring. So it was great, great food, great conversation all around models, and really, really great, way to kick off the weekend. And our good friend Josh here, he's going to be shy, I think, but he kind of pulled a fast one on us and picked up the check, and the waitress came back over, and John decided, well, we better do dessert. And I'm not sure if he really wanted it or just felt guilty from all the staring from the employees. But anyway, he asked our waitress if he could add some dessert to the check, and she looked at him and as serious as could be and said, no. And John, who knows his way around a conversation, was pretty stunned and didn't know what to say. But anyway, we finally got around to the fact that Josh had snuck around and taken care of the check and everything. So that was a lot of fun and really, really great food. Unfortunately, we'd kind of missed out hooking up with Doug, but that was just night number one. And then we had, I have learned from the best. Mr. Banani here has been really, really good about putting together on these model shows, turning them into events, planning museum visits and all kinds of, seeing parks and all kinds of stuff. And so anyway, I put together a day that was a lot of fun. It involved, we went to the Hill Air Force Base Museum. We hit MRS, which is a great hobby store here. We hit Kit Links, which is part of the MRS family, and so we hit that as well. We got some great food, and then I arranged a bunch of us to have a visit at Kindigit Design, which if you know your resto mods and your hot rods, you know that the Kindig shop not only has its own TV show on Motor Trend, it's called Bitch and Rides, but they also build top level, we're talking $500,000 cars and up, top level cars anywhere in the US. It's really fantastic. So
I think we need to back up, though. One of the first stops in the morning, Scott had his itinerary planned. All right, boom, boom, boom. We're going all these places. Okay, cool. I'm in. Show up, Kindigit, after our decent breakfast at the Holiday Inn Express. roll in there at 9:00, ready for the tour. And we walk in and the lady's like, "You do not have a tour scheduled for today, sir." He's like, well, like you could see Scott doesn't get flustered, but you could see it kind of threw him off. But we recovered.
Well, the best was, when she asked him, "Are you sure you had the right day?" And he said, "Yeah, let me show you."
Yeah, like
like, of course I picked the right day.
Duh. And then what did you show her?
Oh, I had some reservations on my phone, but yeah, I might have cried a little. I'm not too afraid to admit it. But they were awesome. They hooked us up later in the day. We just had to sort of shift our time frames a little bit and everything, but we got all that resolved, went to Kit Links, and then we went up to Hill Air Force Base, and there we met some friends.
Yeah, and before we get to Hill, though, I will mention the Kit Links location, are they technically both MRS as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they partnered up together.
Okay, and then what I found cool about the Kit Links place is the giant RC tanks in the back. Like, what are they, 1/6 scale?
They're 1/16, or 1/6. Yeah.
Giant. Make my 1/16 scale Das Workstug look like a toy. That was a really cool shop. And then, like you said, Scott, we went up to Hill and met some great people there.
Ran into Hank and Dan Knofel, and they were touring around the museum with us as well. And then we just caught Doug Reed and the guys that came down from Oregon as they were leaving. We were just kind of arriving, and that's a great museum. If to all our listeners out there, if you haven't been to Hill Air Force Base, to the museum there, you owe it a visit when you're here in Utah. It's a really, really great facility.
Yeah, we met Pat Brown up there, Dan and Hank,
Sean Earl.
Sean Earl was up there. It was a really great time, and they were doing a little special presentation, so they pulled some airplanes out, and then I'm like, oh, it's a courtyard, I can just walk out there, and some guy's like, excuse me, sir, you need to get back here. I'm like, oh, well, okay, no one stopped me, but I'll get back. I already got my picture, so I'm fine. So yeah, then we went to Kindigit, and that was fantastic. And then afterwards, Scott, maybe you can relay that incident in the parking lot with
Oh yeah, you see a different side of JB here. So
all day.
We get done with the tour, and everybody's buzzing. Oh, that was really, really great. And with the tickets, you get some cash off in the gift shop. So I was
you
like,
never said
go.
that.
Well, I said that to some of us, but anyway, I thought we were all going to go to the gift shop. But John looks over at me with like these bloodshot eyes, and he goes, "Scott, we need food, coffee now." And it was like, whoa. Let's skip the gift shop. JB was officially hangry at that point.
I hadn't eaten all day.
I think Steve Baker wasn't too far behind him. So yeah, we hit a local Starbucks, and then headed up to MRS, and that's where we met John Everett.
You say you hadn't eaten all day, but didn't you go to that diner with us for breakfast?
Yes, he did.
No, didn't. What diner?
That was
After
the left Fork diner. After Kindigit didn't work at first, then we went to a diner.
So here's the issue, though. I had breakfast at the hotel, so I only got like a little bit of eggs and bacon at the diner because I'm like, oh, we'll eat lunch like a normal person. I won't stock up for breakfast and expect.
So
to
basically,
this
is the coworker that complains, I didn't have breakfast except for a couple eggs and some bacon, a muffin, some toast, coffee, juice.
I'm high maintenance, okay? I am high maintenance.
Now I want to say something about Kindigit. So Kindigit, when we got to the museum, and I was really happy to be there, and we were having fun, and we kind of rushed it because Scott wanted to hit Kindigit, and in my opinion, I mean, I'm not a car guy. So I was like, okay, whatever, I'll just go where everybody wants. And holy smokes, is that place cool. Kindigit it's insane what they do there. And so I would highly recommend their show. Like Scott said, it's on Car and Driver.
It's on Motor Trend.
Motor Trend. But I mean, they showed us all these cars from start to finish, how they are prepping, and they're doing all of this incredible work on them. And I saw some stuff that actually blew my mind and made me want to be a car guy. And if anybody complains about sanding seams, you got to go sand one of their car bodies for 3 months to get it ready.
Yeah, I think it was that Fleet Side pickup. They said they had a guy on it 8 hours a day, 6 days a week for 3 months. Just saying
months.
things.
That's
Yeah,
insane. But
and that's really why I wanted to get everybody there is we're all modelers, right? And so really what you have with these guys is a customer will bring Dave Kindig, the owner of the shop, they'll bring him a car and they'll say, this is kind of what I'm thinking. And then Dave will literally like sketch it out. And then then his guys go to work on it because nothing they make is stock. Everything is custom. And so it's really kind of 1-to-1 scale modeling with really no budget whatsoever. I mean, like I said, these cars are just $500,000 and up. You know, imagination's the only limit. So
would you call it scratch built?
yeah,
you take a base and then you scratch build the thing. They had, was it a 1970 or 71 Chevy Nova? Now, when I think of a Chevy Nova, I think of Beverly Hills Cop. Axel Foley had the crappy blue Chevy Nova. It was a piece of junk. It was old. It didn't run. So that's what I think of. And I saw this thing and it was immaculate. It was gorgeous. I've never seen paint like that in my life. It was this light blue that it looked like you could swim in it. It wasn't painted to look like water, but it looked deep and cool and refreshing. I mean, it was amazing.
Probably used Future to clear coat it.
That's right.
Well, they were working on what a 70 Challenger for Kevin Hart was in the shop.
Big car for a small man.
Yeah.
They moved the seat way up.
1,000 horsepower engine is what's going in it. I mean, it's crazy.
It reminded me, honestly, it was 1-to-1 scale modeling, 100%. I mean, the way they were literally tearing down the cars to the frame and honestly scratch building everything back, and whatever pieces that they could use, Bondo was their friend. Instead of using a little emery stick, they're using a giant emery stick. And it was pretty incredible seeing them also polish the hoods when we walked in and learning that took 4 days to clear coat and polish just the backside of the hood, for crying out loud. And it had a very modeler vibe where I know it's done right. No one will ever see it, but I know it's there. I mean, the welds on some of the chassis that they were, going medical on, it was truly mental.
Grinding and sanding away the weld seams on the frame.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I felt was great too, is, you probably, for people that are always in front of the camera, or, you hear horror stories of, never meet your heroes because they won't treat you nice. But what I can say is that shop, for people that are in front of the camera all the time, probably get asked a bajillion questions. They were super engaging to us. Very nice. One guy even stopped his work. I think he was one of the main people on the show, just stopped while I was sitting on the ground working on the chassis and talked to us about it. I thought that was super cool. And the staff there was unbelievably friendly, really, really, really top notch, and highly recommended for everybody in the Salt Lake area. And I'm sorry that I caused us to leave a little early from the merch shop.
It's all good. Then we went to MRS and John Everett. I'm kind of curious, as an out of towner, air quotes, you're a pilot, so you get around quite a lot. But what do you think of MRS Hobbies there in Sandy?
That is what I like to think of as the old school hobby shop. They've been updating and modernizing. I've been going down to MRS now for probably 6-7 years. Just take the light rail down there. It's a quick walk. And I've watched as they've kind of progressed from being sort of the place that's the dark, dusty old shelves where you go through old boxes and old junk and you find a few bits of treasure in the old junk, and now they're much more modern. I was talking to the owner. I can't think of his name. What was it?
Doug.
Yeah, Doug. I was talking to the owner there about 3 years ago, and he said that I'd noticed that it had been modernized. You got better lighting, the aisles are more organized. He said, yeah, we've revamped the place since the Gundams came along. He said the Gundam robots have saved this business. He said it was like throwing a switch. He started getting the Gundams in there, a whole new group of people, new young people coming in, new blood into the hobby, and bam, he's just like, let's redo the store. He was going to close it down, I guess.
Yeah, he's really a visionary. I think the Gundams, Doug and Josh will confirm this, but he'll get in pallet loads of Gundam kits and they'll be gone in a week. It's pretty incredible, the clientele that he's fostered on those.
Yeah. So I really liked MRS. I thought that those are just great old hobby shops. And what I like to see about it, it's the old school kind of a place, but he's updating it. You're seeing new types of paint, new types of glue, new types of products, new tools that are just kind of cutting edge, or maybe not cutting edge, but have been around for only a year or two, and you're seeing them on the shelves there. And you'll see them there before you'll see them at the more conventional mainstream hobby places. So I do like MRS. It's one of my favorite places to go down there. So if I'm not going to go climb up Ensign Peak and have a view at the downtown, then I'll go down to MRS and go spend some money at Doug's place.
Yeah, I'll echo that, John. I thought it was, like you said, it kind of had a mix of new and old, where the old, or I should say traditional hobby brands, the Woodland Scenics, and a lot of, I found MV lenses there, for crying out loud. But then you go to the other aisle, and even up front on some of the main, pillars or end caps that had the modern Japanese stuff. Some of the sanding sticks, the accessories, and other types of tools, like the little metal tins for paint for like $3, and you get 10 of them. I just threw them at people. I'm like, buy this, buy this, buy this. Don't even question me, or I'll buy it for you. Also, you mentioned paint. Walking in, the whole left side of the building is paint from start to finish, and it's all the major brands. And from my perspective, Scott, you maybe, and Josh too, it seemed like they sold out a lot, and it seems like stuff flies off the shelf there. And they were restocking AK the morning we showed up, and by the time it was on the shelf, I feel like a couple were gone already. It was again a really great shop, and you got volume of new stuff and the consumables, and they hit everything on the head. The only thing I was missing was a little Mr. Surfacer black primer, but that's okay. I got the mahogany, so I'm okay.
Okay.
And I got coffee afterwards. So no, that was before. So I was feeling
you'd already had coffee.
I had my little egg sandwich, my little afternoon delight. I even had a cake pop.
Scott Gentry was still shaken enough by that whole event that he told me about the coffee shop needs while at MRS. Yeah,
he had PTSD. Still does.
Out in the lot, he was just smoking cigarettes and just still shaking, sucking his thumb in a fetal position about
stay away from that guy.
How you needed to get to some food at the coffee shop.
It was like that poor guy in MRS when he was unpacking the AK box, and he pulled out a couple packages of those dried sea balls that Martin is always showing in his videos. And we were all like, they didn't even hit the shelves. They were just all snatched up immediately.
And then you guys had a repeat of the night before when they wanted to close up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like we are going to be closing soon. It's we are closed now.
Yeah.
Get out.
Get out. I was like, oh, okay, cool, man.
Like when the Terminator got into that helicopter and told the helicopter guy to get out. It was like that. Out.
Went to another great local place called the Garage Grill, and we closed that one down too.
Yeah. Well, I was going to mention too at Kitlinks, or MRS, I should say, the one thing I found that was really cool, and unfortunately I can't take advantage of it because I'm out of town, but you have the ability, they send you coupons, right? And get, dollars off. I think when you checked out, you guys got what, $5 off, $10 off? You can rank up.
Yeah, their loyalty rewards program is great. So periodically, to get you back in the shop, they'll just text you, say, hey, here's $5 off. We didn't see you this week. I mean, it's literally that often. But you get, Scott can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's 10% of your purchase back as points that you can then redeem for, so it doesn't take long to rack up a $25 gift certificate, a $50 gift certificate. It's a very generous rewards program, and your points don't expire. I know guys that have saved up like thousands of points. I don't know why. I can't. Once I get to 25 or 50, I cash them in. But yeah, it's a really generous program. And in addition to that, Doug and the other owners, like a lot of other hobby shops, I'm sure, they'll bring in just about anything you ask them to. And if it's a special order, if it's something that they think looks interesting, he'll bring in a couple more or bring in that whole line. I mean, he started bringing in some MRP paints. And like you said, that paint aisle, some of those I know he brought in just because he got asked enough about it. And so he just bought the whole line and brought it in. I feel very lucky to live that close to a hobby shop that's thriving like that.
Yeah, for sure. It's a dangerous place. And the other MRS location was great too. The one that was coupled with Kitlinks. I mean, stacks upon stacks of kits, and dangerous for plastic. And again, another great shop with consumables. It's really cool to see an area like Salt Lake have two of those thriving locations. Certainly is a nice thing for modelers. And by the way, we haven't even gotten to the show yet, team.
Yeah, I was just going to say we're 35 minutes in and we haven't even talked about this show yet.
Well, and there were even more people with us than we haven't even mentioned. John Vitkus, who met us at MRS. We had Cameron Corliss with us all day. It was his
that's
birthday.
Right. Happy birthday, Cameron.
Birthday, and I think he had a pretty dang good day with us. It was a lot of fun to have him there.
Yeah, that was great. And Cameron knows those folks pretty well, which was really cool. When we were at the first Kit Links location, he took some of us behind the velvet rope and we got to walk around the warehouse and take a bunch of pictures and really check out, as I mentioned before, the 1/6 scale armor collection and some of the stuff that company's doing, really bespoke stuff, layouts of basically huge instructions of how to build these kits and mold them. And they had a whole metal shop in the back. And yeah, major kudos to Cameron for showing us around. I really appreciated that.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of people we forgot to mention, at least I think we forgot to mention him, probably the most popular model making podcast on the planet, Small Subjects. We had Barry Biediger with us.
That's right.
Yeah, he joined us all day long. Yeah, man, it's just so many people, so much fun. I do want to say before we get to the show, one of the things we dealt with all day long Friday was poor Steve Baker. I mean, we'd go into every shop, every restaurant, at the museum. We'd all get ready. We'd all get ready to go and leave. And everybody would be like, where's Steve? Where's Steve? I mean, every single place we went, that guy was just, I don't know if he got lost or just he gets distracted really easy. I don't know.
Those fighter pilots, they're like, oh, target of opportunity, by formation. I'm going.
Yeah, it's more like squirrel.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, I guess Saturday morning, let's talk about the show. IPMS Salt Lake put it on, and they do one every other year. And they had it at a pretty nice little venue, got Salt Lake Community College right on the main interstate corridor in Salt Lake City, Interstate 15. We all got there pretty early and started to set up. Josh and I had a table that we were running for the Plastic Posse, as well as a local show that we're putting together. I think most of us ended up judging, and then I think all of us here entered models, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. Why don't we, Doug? Let's start with you. What did you enter in the show?
Well, I brought the little Achilles that I'd done. Made a cheap, quick base for it out of an artist canvas. Basically, it was a painting canvas that I just painted a nice red brown and stuck that on there. Entered that. I haven't entered armor in a contest since I was 13, so I was just kind of happy to put it out there. It didn't place, no worries. And since JB brought my Y-wing back that I had to leave in Omaha because I had the COVID and couldn't get back into the model room, the display room, he brought it. I was like, might as well, I'll put it out. So my Y-wing was on the table as well. But some other Y-wing beat me. You don't have to allow bag come out. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. It's no big deal.
That's really aggressive, Doug.
I'm just having fun. Look, the other Y-wing was a stunner. It's a beautiful Y-wing, and I'll let someone else talk about it because it was just okay. That's what he kept saying, but it won, and it deserved it.
Well, and John, we've already kind of alluded to this, but your dinosaurs represented the category very, very well. Beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah, I brought, what I bring 5 dinosaurs in total. Yeah, a couple. One was a bust, so I won't call that a full dinosaur. And then I had a skull. I had a 1-to-1 size Velociraptor skull that had been painted up. I don't know if that counts as a dinosaur or not, but it's a part of a dinosaur.
I really like that piece. I thought it was really cool. And then Josh, what did you enter in the show?
I brought a 148 Tiger that was part of the Posse's Tiger Group build weekend. So that was cool. That was the first piece of armor I'd ever brought to a contest. I brought a 172nd Focke-Wulf 190, the Tamiya kit. Trying to remember, I brought 2 little 1 to 144th Bandai A-Wings, because I always like to bring something Star Wars. And then I brought a 3D printed figure from the Fallout universe, video game universe. It was a piece of power armor.
Beautiful piece. We talked about presentation, John, before we talk about what you brought over and entered. One of the things I'm starting to see more and more at shows is something we've talked about on the Posse a lot, which is that final 5%, the presentation, putting figures or a really great base, on that power suit armor that Josh did. He had purchased a bottle cap top as a base and painted it with Nuka-Cola, which if you played the Fallout games, you know what that is and everything. The presentation was just fantastic. So, John, what did you bring to the show to enter?
Oh boy, what didn't I bring? I think I brought 13. So everything from the big Stug to a Mac to some Star Wars and a bunch of armor in between. If you were walking in the contest hall and smelled enamel paint, that was probably my VT outgassing because it was finished in the hotel the night before. Steve and I, share the hotel room, and we basically hot swapped on the desk to see who could finish their model first. And Steve finished his King Tiger, and I got my VT done. So that was probably the newest thing I brought to the show. And I'll just highlight Steve. He's starting to threaten armor modeling, which I'm not a big fan of. No, just kidding. It's great to see him come over, but he won best aircraft at that show with Arma Hobbies Yak. Simply an outstanding build, an outstanding paint job.
It was well-deserved. It was really nice.
Well-deserved. I mean, there was a lot of great aircraft on the table there, super tight competition, and he just squeaked it out, I think. And one of the things that Scott was mentioning, it could use a base. So, Steve, if you're listening, put it on a base because it is well-deserving. And he probably didn't because I think he finished it like a week before the show. And then also, instead of finishing a base, he finished the King Tiger, which also placed as well. So he's a overall outstanding modeler, and it was really great to ride there and back with him and hear a bunch of his stories. So major kudos to him. And it was just a really great show. A lot of quality on the tables. Scott, what was the final model count?
I think it was like 560. I think it was just about 600, 540, nice. 560, something like that.
And then the folks from Oregon came down, Doug Reed and his crew. I mean, that's pretty wild to drive all the way from Oregon. We had us. Oh, Joe Porche and Jay from Vegas as well. I mean, really incredible show to have people from, I think, every corner of the West Coast, for crying out loud, show up. And it was
Cody Kaczynski came over from Reno. Yeah.
Yep. Longtime supporter, great work. And I do have to tell a story. Philip, he made some hotel guests at the Holiday Inn do a double take when I was carrying him in and out of the lobby and into the elevator. Like, what is that? And we put his little horn out where it's like it's black and a little blue highlight, and they're like, whoa, what is that? But yeah, it was a good time.
I had Philip right after I finished painting the giant dinosaur. I had him on a table at a local science fiction event here in Denver. Someone came through the room, and Philip was just sitting on the tabletop, and someone came through the room with their guide dog. And these are very disciplined, very well-trained animals. And this guide dog came in and locked up and had to be dragged. Just the dog just staring. It didn't growl. It didn't bark. It just stared at Philip and wouldn't move. And the owner had to pull the dog past Philip, and then the dog left the room. But yeah, it's those eyes. It's those taxidermy eyes. Yeah. And the dog just locked in on that. This was an animal that dog had never seen before. Didn't know what to make of it.
What do I do?
Staring contest.
I can't think of a better compliment to your work than that. I mean,
yeah.
Dogs love me.
Dogs love me.
I want to give Cameron Corliss another prop here. I think he did a really great job with the rest of the Salt Lake City IPMS team. Gave a lot of feedback on a lot of different models. The award ceremony was pretty quick for that kind of a thing. I think that was done really, really well. The show was a little tight, and I just think it was because so many more people showed up than they were expecting. Vendor area was a little small, a few things like that. But I think overall, very well done show, very well run. I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of the, like I said earlier, one of the better shows that they've had. I'd like to maybe, start with you, John Everett. What was your favorite thing from the show? You can talk about a model or just, the venue or the way it was run. I mean, what's something you'll take away from the show?
From that show, honestly, I think I was most impressed with the level of weathering I'd seen on the armor. That whatever it is, I don't know if it's just a current trend. You'll see this in the art world sometimes. In the art world, we spent, from cave paintings to the Renaissance, we spent 1,000 years trying to render an accurate human being. And then once we did that, and Leonardo da Vinci is doing this great work, very quickly we said, well, that's boring. Let's do something new. Let's do impressionism. Let's do this. Let's do that. And I think we're seeing that with art and armor models right now, that armor models had been one way for a very long time. And now we've got a whole new group of people that are like, you know what? Weathering is more than just this kind of chipping. It's also this. And weathering is more than just water stains. It's this. And people are trying out new materials, new techniques. And for me, a lot of that seemed to come together at the Salt Lake show, maybe to a greater degree than I noticed at Omaha. Maybe it was on the table and I just didn't see it because there was an ocean of tanks out there in Omaha. But right there in Salt Lake, there were, I don't know, maybe 2, 3, 4 dozen really well done armor pieces right there on the end of the table under good light where I could get right up close. And maybe that's part of it too. A smaller venue, not so many people in the room. You don't feel the need to quickly move out of the way because some guy's trying to photograph something. And so you can spend your time and really have a good look at the model. And that's for me, the takeaway was just how startlingly good weathering is becoming very quickly on these armor models. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've just missed the trend on that. But for me, that was it. And there's the old cliche of, hey, let's go out and have dinner too. And the dinners are fun.
Doug, what was something that you enjoyed or that you'll take away from the show?
Well, unfortunately, I wasn't there very long. I had to leave. I had a trip to see my other grandkids who live 3.5 hours from there. But I was there until about 11. And gosh, I just really enjoyed seeing the quality of work that was on the table. The aircraft, especially the 72nd scale stuff, which Steve Baker's was part of. It's amazing the detail that these guys are getting into little tiny things like that. The quality, the weathering, which is spot on in a lot of cases for the scale. You can't put it too heavy because it's, obviously at that scale, it will look wrong. But there was some fantastic stuff on there. Just had a real good time seeing that. Yeah, I was excited to be there. It was fun.
I would add the small scale armor for a show that size. It wasn't Nats, but for a show that size, there was a lot of 148 and 172nd scale armor on the table. And John, maybe you can comment. Some of the pieces were yours and some of our other friends as well. But I think that you're really starting to see a lot more of the small scale armor as well as the aircraft that are executed at just a really, really high degree.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to echo John's comments. The weathering on the armor was superb. It was one of those times where, and I think we've talked about this before at shows, and really a general trend, I think, in the United States where I hate to say this because I don't like to cast judgment, but the armor modeling community is, I think, pushing boundaries a lot more than the aircraft community. I think you can see it on the table at shows where the evolution of finishing for armor has outpaced aircraft. As John mentioned, it's exploring new techniques. It's trying to, okay, we've done this in the past. Let's go do something else. Let's try this. Let's try that. So that was really great to see. Personally, my greatest highlight from the show itself, other than the people, which contributes to this, was, we got to see Bruce and Martin Drayton as well, both fantastic armor modelers and, more importantly, diorama modelers. And that was a highlight of the show for me. I always enjoy the dioramas, and those two gentlemen stuck out to, their work sticks out a lot. Martin's P-38 is still one of my favorite models I've seen all year that's crashed on a Pacific beach. I think there's a little parrot on the subject as well. And then I saw one of my favorite pieces as well. I have many favorites, but this, they rank up there, Martin's being aircraft and on the beach. But Bruce brought the one, I forget the title of it, but it's the SDKF 251 half track coming up, and there's dudes like around it. But the overall composition's great. But the thing that sticks out the most to me, which I really love, is the scratch built cathedral ruins behind it and the Gothic architecture that he scratch built out of. It's not like, it's almost like foam board, but like it's very dense. I forget the technical term for it. But that piece I've had a chance to see in Vegas and then seeing it again in Utah. I really enjoy it because it's the architectural side of those models. And he did another one. I think it was some sort of monastery or some sort of church, religious building around Italy, and the same kind of thing where he scratch built the facade of it, had the interior bracing. And I think there was a priest in that one, and his work is all online. You can see it. You can follow along. He has hundreds of pictures, very well detailed. But that's the kind of work that stuck out to me at the show. It kind of goes along with what John said earlier, except, instead of a 9-year-old, it's a 36-year-old that looks and walks around a table and goes, that's cool. And it's sometimes a subject that I would have never built before. And another one is Bruce's, I think it's a Spanish galleon that's going over the waterfall. That's, the earth is flat kind of thing. Another piece that really piques your interest, that is simply, something that I'll likely never build. I don't own any ships like that in my collection, but when I look at that, I go, wow, that's inspiring. And the same goes for, John's dinosaur as well. You walk past something like that, you remember it. I love Panther tanks. I love building them, but sadly there's a bajillion Panther tanks on the table. They're all either green or tan, but there are those larger pieces that stick out and, stick with you. Those are great examples of what I enjoyed about the show, is seeing those unique pieces.
Josh, what about you?
Well, unfortunately, I spent most of the show in the hallway hawking off my stash to the lowest bidder. So I didn't have a lot of time in the contest room. But being a local and being to that show before, what I was really impressed by, which has already been mentioned by Doug, is the large number of kits. But in this case, it just seemed like the quality overall was just really impressive across the board. I mean, it's always cool to see a wide variation of stuff out there on the table. And usually I could pick out, this guy's probably a beginner or this guy's more moderate, but everything on the table, to me, in my eyes, was just fantastic and inspiring. As far as things that really stuck out, I'll be honest, the dinosaurs super piqued my interest. I thought those were really cool, to the point where it really makes me want to do one. I picked up some of the Bandai skeletons. So I'm going to do those with one of my boys. But I've been on Cretaceous Creations a couple times now, and I'm itching to get something like that. They're cool. And then there was a diorama from Lord of the Rings of Bilbo's.
That was Bruce's.
Yes.
Bruce's.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what I thought was really cool about that, it looked amazing. And the grass is what really impressive to me. And what I appreciate about him is he would write down what he actually did. He wasn't hiding anything. And I thought the grass looked so cool. And he put right in there, he used fur, which I would have never thought of doing. So, off the top of my head, those are some things that really stick out. But overall, I just think the quality there was amazing. And yeah, kudos to Cameron and the rest of the club for putting on a great show. And Cameron included. I think that's why the awards show was short. I think they just handed him almost all the awards, and then
yeah, it was the Cameron Corliss show at the end.
That's right.
Like,
yeah.
Geez, man.
He cleaned.
Him and
up.
Martin.
Yeah, him and Martin.
Yeah.
Martin, your turn. Cameron, your turn. Stay up here, Cameron. So no, they well deserved.
But yeah, I don't think anyone. I didn't see anything that just wasn't really impressive. Everyone's stuff belongs on the table, but I just was super impressed by everything I saw. And it was just great. It was a really cool experience.
I just want to hit on the judging. We've all talked about the quality. I judged aircraft. It was one of the hardest times I've ever judged. With IPMS 1, 2, 3, there were categories where we got down to the nitty gritty. And it's sad because I could have awarded probably 3 or 4 models at least in the 48 scale prop allied category of gold, because they were that good. They were national level types of work, and it was just really hard to nitpick, essentially. I'm sure the armor judges didn't have it any easier.
Oh man.
And same with dioramas too. It was honestly, that it was just difficult because stuff was so good, and the quality at local shows is getting so good. And it kind of goes what the TJ talked about earlier in this episode around different styles of judging criteria. It's worth exploring based on just people are getting dang good at modeling.
Yeah. I want to come back to judging, John, because I judged armor and have a bone to pick with you. But the piece that really made an impact on me was our friend Barry Biediger from Small Subjects. He brought a box that just it's like so much of his work. It's subtle, it's quiet, and honestly, we always talk about, is it art? Is it modeling? It's art because it causes you to feel emotions when you see his work. And it's not grandiose, it's not big and huge and flashy. It just really works. And at least for me, it really spoke to me. And, this particular piece, I don't know what it was called, but it's a girl kind of hunched up in a little, like a space station room. And there's a forced perspective window and then a moon off in the distance. And it's lit very soft and very beautifully. And it's just a stunning piece. Just to kind of tip my hat to Barry on that. But as far as judging armor, I had a great conversation after we were done. I had a really good team I worked with, but like these guys have been talking about, the difference between first, second, and third, and even some of the pieces that didn't place was so minuscule. And I got to have a conversation with a gentleman whose piece finished fourth. So essentially just sort of out of contention. And he was asking what he could have done better. And, we talked about the things that we found, and the things that we're talking about are so small. This show allows for modelers to have sweeps where a lot of shows don't. And this show also allows award-winning models from other shows. And, John brought over a number of pieces. He had people asking him if he could see this piece or that piece. And man, just not making it easy on the armor judging team at all, seeing I'm familiar with a lot of John's work, and he actually brought some that I wasn't familiar with, but just making that job of judging really, truly difficult, again, speaks to what we've all been talking about, which is the level of quality. John brought over some pieces that didn't place, and it wasn't because the pieces weren't worthy of recognition. It was because the pieces that were on the table were so good. And in a lot of cases, he just beat himself. So, there's that too. So,
yeah. And maybe one thing I'll also highlight, Scott, and it goes to shows in general and judging in contests. And if you've never gone before, maybe you have gone, I do think, you can never take the results too seriously, because it's truly any given Sunday, not only from the standpoint of other modelers showing up that you've never been exposed to, but also just the judges themselves. I had pieces that, did well at the show that didn't do well at others. I had a piece that did very well at nationals and didn't even place there. And at the end of the day, it's anything goes, and you have to walk in with that type of attitude. If there's any type of expectation, you're going to be disappointed at the end of the day. And really, it's not the expectation of the contest that you should be going for. It's the desire to show and share your work, at least from my perspective. And I think the value in bringing something, even though you might not think you have a chance, you honestly never know, because it's any given Sunday. But I hearken back to what John Everett said, where if you bring your piece and someone walks away with like, holy cow, that was awesome, whether it's the dinosaur or, like Josh said, the Hobbit hut. I mean, those things, you might think, oh, I won't win an award, but I truly believe that doesn't matter when someone can walk away and remember that. And that's something that, you might even see it posted on Facebook. And that's even cooler when someone posts your work in a show album, or they say like, this was awesome, and they talk about it. Like, it's just maybe important to remember those things, because contests and judging, we kind of hinted at it on the last episode, they're touchy subjects, they're stressful subjects, and unfortunately contests bring that out sometimes. But if we take a step back and think about why we do it, I brought all my work there because I wanted to share it, and I'm happy I didn't even tell Scott about the one little Dorchester truck I built. And he's like, you built that? I'm like, yeah, it's a little older, but I just wanted to bring it to show it, because I'd never really brought it to any shows out west. And I just, again, wanted to put it on the table. I thought it was a unique piece. And again, Scott, thanking me for bringing it was just enough. It was like, okay, yeah, that's why I brought it. It's not about the award. It's about, the exposure of the piece, and, maybe pique an interest from somebody to build that subject in the future.
Just to follow up on that a little bit, John, and put the pressure on Scott. I'm one that always would go to shows and not bring anything, because I always felt that, well, my stuff's not good enough to win, so why would I bother bringing it? And Scott is really good at encouraging people to participate more, for better or for worse. But he really puts that peer pressure on, and I brought a bunch of stuff because of that same feeling of, just maybe someone will see it and think it's cool, and that's good enough for me. Or maybe someone will see it and it'll make them want to do something like that. And more as time has gone on, that's what the shows are about for me, or just letting other people see your stuff, letting it inspire them, or even if it doesn't, just putting yourself out there a little more. And it doesn't matter if you win something or not, at least to me. It's just more about giving people stuff to see. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things there that didn't win awards, but I'm really glad people brought it because it was inspiring and it gave me ideas for things I want to do and I want to build. And I think just that idea of bringing stuff just because you think it might win can really limit the experience, not just for yourself, but for other people too.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
100%.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Getting to see, work. I saw John, I think I saw Philip the first time. Was it at the Colpar show over in Colorado?
No,
was that before Vegas?
Vegas.
Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, just, getting to see it and like I mentioned before, getting to spend some time and really kind of getting down into the minutia. And John mentioned his Matador truck. It's an Airfix kit, but he basically rebuilt, I mean, like 2/3 of it with photo etch, and seeing Josh's armor suit and Doug's Y-wing and the subtlety of the weathering on that and Barry's box and on and on and on. After the friendship and all the stuff we've talked about here, that's really inspiring. And like you said, it doesn't matter to me if it wins or not. It's really more about sharing it. And I love shows because, leading up to the shows, we all were working on stuff. Doug, he finished that, 48 scale Achilles, and, we all were working on different projects and kind of egging each other on. Josh made my piece happen because I really wanted to do a base, and he's a bit of a carpenter and really, really helped me out and encouraged me to do that. And there were a few times where I was ready to just bag it, say, no, I'm not going to do it. But he kind of pushed me and I kind of pushed him. And, that part of it for me has as much value as the friendship and the dinners and all the stuff we've been kind of joking around about. But that's what I think makes these shows special.
Oh, yeah. And I just want to really hit the nail on the head with what Josh said around just bring it, because from my perspective, and this is actually proven in data as well, we did the survey for the IPMS Nationals. One of the things that people took away that they really enjoyed was the contest hall and seeing other people's work. And when I think about people going to a show, you putting your work on the table really helps that club draw people in because they're going to see great work. They're good at, they're expecting to see really cool stuff. And John Everett is probably the perfect example, bringing in dinosaurs where I guarantee every kid that showed up at that show and the adults will remember them and will remember Philip, and they'll probably say like, oh, this year I hope the dinosaur guy's back. And hopefully they won't. Well, you'll have that 1-to-1 guy done. Have you named him yet?
No, haven't named him yet. I and usually it's down to the kids. I let the kids name them. They're teenagers now, so it's less important to name the dinosaur that lives above the fireplace. But we'll have to find a name for him. I don't know. Once I get him painted, when he's painted and has a full personality, then we'll name it.
Like that Gundam kit that had the full background behind it and all the figures all over it. I mean,
the gantry system all over it.
Yeah. Just, oh man, just, the more you talk about it, the more you remember things that inspired you. Cameron's aircraft models, John Vickus's aircraft models that he brought out, like Steve, like John, you mentioned he's kind of, edging into armor, but that little 148 scale T-34-85 that he built. I mean, oh man, just seeing that in person is it's awesome.
Yeah. And to our listeners, Steve, the way he transports his models, he just puts them in a box. And like, oh, okay, we just got not even a top on it. We're driving across the state and his Spitfire's just out there in the open, stop at a gas station. Person can go look in the car and get a nice preview of what they're going to see on the table, for crying out loud. At least John put a blanket over Philip. But, it's I razz Steve. But yeah, his work was great. One of the things that stuck out to me there too was the big vac form 48 scale KC-135 and tanking up the E8 Prowler. I mean, I think the guy used a TV stand as the base for it. It was, again, an incredible piece. And when you think about that category conversions and scratch builds, it's one of those categories where the spirit of the award, from my perspective, is awarded higher. That piece of the judging criteria, I think, is weighed higher than the actual, did they get all the seams right? Because I want to reward somebody that's put in that type of effort on something that we'll frankly never see again on a contest table. That was the only one I've ever seen, and I doubt I'll see another one because it's a hard kit to find. It's a terrible kit to build. And no one's got room for something like that except John and his rafters, I bet, because that's where
Yeah.
he keeps all of his
Yeah.
kits. So
Before we wrap up, guys, I want to ask a question. Doug, I want to start with you, but is there anything for you that's more inspiring than going to a show like this for your mojo?
So it's a very good question. Most of the time I'd say no, there's nothing better than that to get you inspired to do stuff. And I don't know if it's the show and seeing what everybody's doing or the friends that are inspiring you to keep going and seeing what they're doing and sharing their experiences with what they're seeing and what they appreciate, what they like. Those things are probably the thing that is the most inspiring to me.
John Everett, same question.
For getting to the shows, there is some there, but I think Doug's models and his blog, he hit it best when he wrote that sometimes you just have to, even if your mojo is, if you're not really motivated to go out there and build a model, to just get into the workshop and start cutting plastic. And it seems to be a self-feeding, a positive feedback loop, a virtuous cycle. And you will, by virtue of building a thing, seeing the progress, and then it reignites that imagination. And for me, the shows are fantastic. I love to see the finished work and I love to hang out with the friends and go close down the pizza joint when they finally throw us out at 10 p.m. But in terms of getting my mojo back whenever I'm not feeling motivated to build, force yourself. It's a bit like exercise. Force yourself to get out there and do it. And the more you do, the more you enjoy it. And the more you see the progress on the model you're building and like, oh yeah, I can finish this. In fact, after we get done talking tonight, I'm going to go work more on that frog.
Nice. JB?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what John and even Doug, it's everything about it. To be honest, it's it's the people, the show, and that's what I think when I think about the value IPMS delivers, I can't really quantify it, but I can from a qualitative perspective, I can judge it as a huge value in a creating an epicenter for us people to get together and be able to share work. And after I see John's dinosaurs, I walk into my basement and go, ooh, I got some of those Jurassic Park Horizon dinosaurs. I even have lizard eyes for the Velociraptor.
See?
And I'm like, I'm like, I need to build this thing. And they're pretty big, but again, it's getting bitten by that little bug. And same, it goes for aircraft as well. It honestly is those subject matters that I don't really get exposed to. At my bench, if you look around in my room, it's almost all armor with Mac spread in a little bit here and there. But the shows and the gatherings, more importantly, the experience, I'll say, is really what drives the mojo, because you talk to people, and you're like, dang, I got to put something else on the table now. Or you see something at the show and you're like, I got to try that next. So it's literally everything. I'm just certainly happy to just be a part of, the community, and super thankful that we have great people to come, literally halfway across the country and to share their time. Again, looking from Vegas, Reno, Oregon, different parts of Utah, Colorado. I'm sure somebody was there from New Mexico and Idaho. And that's what makes it fun. And that's why I've been churning on builds since Nats. It's the mojo has got to capitalize on it.
Josh?
To preface all of this, I am really glad I went. I had an awesome time, and I've never regretted it. It's full of inspiration. But for me, the shows and the gatherings, for various reasons, is really exhausting and overstimulating in a lot of ways. And so sometimes I come back from some of those events, even though I really enjoyed it and it was a great experience, where I just feel almost burnt out. And I know that can sound kind of weird, but to go back to what was said a little bit earlier, for me, what gets my mojo going, I think the most, is just, especially in times when I really don't want to, is just going to the bench and sitting down. And it might even start with, I don't feel like doing anything, so I'm just going to clean up my bench or clean up this work area. And that turns into, well, maybe I'll just paint this one part, or maybe I'll just glue this one thing. And that it's a positive loop that starts, building up and building up. And then before I know it, I've been down there for a couple hours. So again, I mean, I love the show. I love the experience. It's awesome. But for me, in some ways, it can kind of drain the mojo. And just having some of that time at the bench, forcing myself to sit down for a couple minutes and just seeing what happens is typically what gets me back up.
I appreciate everybody hanging out tonight and talking about it. It was a lot of fun. It's always a great time to get together with friends and, do all these things. JB, appreciate you laying out the blueprint for me putting together my own little mini, John Bonani cruise of fun before the show. That was great. I look forward to upcoming shows when we all get to do this again, and hopefully see you guys sooner rather than later.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, John and Josh, for joining us.
All right. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks
Good
for
time,
the
guys.
invite.
And next show where we'll be together, some of us, November 5th, IPMS High Plains. I will be there. And Josh, if you make your way to Colorado, you got a place to stay.
Hey, good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. All right. Well, that was a lot of fun talking to those guys and reliving those memories. Is a great show. And hopefully all of you out there in the posse get a chance to go to a show in your area here pretty soon and, have a lot of fun with old friends and new alike. Now it's time to send a shout out to the Posse Outriders. The Outriders, as you know, are listeners who support the Posse by becoming Patreon contributors. If you would like to support the Triple P and become an Outrider, you can go to our Patreon page, which is www.patreon.com/Plastic Posse Podcast. And you can set up a recurring donation there that will help us to offset the cost of bringing you the Triple P. There's 3 different tiers of support, and they start at just $1 a month. So let's start at the top with our awesome deputy marshals. We have Bryce Lacar, Graham Pearson, Patrick Brown, Steve Schaefer, Jay Kidd, Paul Burdett, Brandon Gentry, Mark Ewing, Ted Kawahara, Josh Orr, John Bryan, Scale Model Hanger, Toadman, Model Doc, Doug Reed, Greg James, Les Workala, B Colt 1911, John Everett, Josh Buck, Black Rifle Model Works, Thomas Bannock, Mark Bradley, Zach Pease, Joel Munson, Eric Brubaker, Jeremy Moore, DB Scale Model Studio, Matt Johnston, Jared Cowell, Jeremy Elliott, Mike Talley, Steve Baker, Mediocre Middle-Aged Modeler, Dan Knofel, Eric DeGleish, Bruce the Model Noob, Ethan Eidenmill, JC Osborne, and Rick Cooper. Oh, man. Doug, help me out here. I'm out of breath.
All right, we'll go on to the posse foreman. We have Red Beach 1, MD Models, the voice of Bob, Papa Steve Munsell, JV, Eric, Victor, Pete, Toby, Matthew, Matters of Scale, Damian, Kieran, Cody, Lib, Papa Mike, Charlie, Tim, Robert, Force Ghost 73, Nuke Man Mike, Greg, JAK, AK Model, AK Armor, Ash, Irish Pat, Paul, Previous Seat, iBones Models, Mr. Grizz, Jackson, Chrisley, Jamie, Craig, Mike, Rick, and Steve. Last but not least, we have our Posse Outriders, including Jared, Lynn, Pat, and 10 others. Before we move on, during October, we'll be starting to send out Posse swag packs, beginning with our deputy marshals, especially the ones who have been patrons for the longest time. Remember, deputy marshals are eligible to appear on the posse. We will also get swag packs out to our highest seniority posse foreman members as well. Lastly, great job to all of our posse supporters. You help make the podcast and everything we do a reality. So a sincere thanks to all of you.
Yeah, I just like to echo Doug. We cannot do this without you. It's incredibly encouraging. Everyone from the beginning to where we are now that have supported us, even just by posting and sharing the posse online is really important and really helps us out. And we cannot wait to bring you more content. And with that, we're going to go into our discussion topic. And this is one I've experienced recently, and I'll lead it, and then I'm going to kick it around the room to get some input from my co-hosts. And really, the theme is, it's just been one of those days, or it could be a week, but I'm going to focus on a day. So last Saturday, I'm here and I'm ripping and roaring through the Samoa. I got it painted, and then I put the camouflage scheme on, go to sleep Friday night, wake up, and I'm like, okay, it's time to model. Go to put on the decals, start putting them on, and it becomes an absolute disaster. They don't settle down. They just don't look right. The film's thick. And then I start second guessing the camouflage scheme, and I'm like, this thing just sucks. So I put it aside. I'm like, okay, let's go to something else. So I start painting the Earthshots M7 and get through the olive drab, start highlighting it, modulate it. It's looking good. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to clear coat this right now. I want to lock in these colors because with some AK Interactive real colors, the first, I guess you could call the first generation of them, I've had some issues where decal setting solution, and if you don't have something very mild, it does create some staining or potential tide marks. So I'm like, I'm going to lock this in with some Tamiya clear, which I actually tried to use their flat clear, blast it on, and it turns it from a nice modulated OD to just a big green blob. And I was like, oh man, okay, this looks pretty terrible. But I'll see what happens. And then I go and mask the stars on it. And in my impatience, I move the mask and smear a star on top. I'm like, okay, let's just put this down before it gets launched into the Rocky Mountains. So walk away, think about things, take my dog for a walk. And I'm like, what is happening? So I think about what I need to do. I come back, I literally pull out a little notepad and I write down, these are the things I'm going to do the rest of the day. And the first thing I did was I grabbed a Tupperware container from downstairs and I stripped the Samwa. And I know that was heartbreaking for some, but when you don't like it and you're not feeling it, strip it, grip it, and rip it and do something else. And this time took some rubbing alcohol, cleaned it off. And then with the Stug, I'm like, well, let's get to this. So I came back to it and I actually took some lighter shades of OD and painted on top of what I had already clear coated. And then I'm like, okay, I am not touching this afterwards. So recovered on the Stug, and then on the Samwa, I came back, let it dry for a couple hours, and then blasted it with a new coat of Mr. Surfacer, and all was good. So now I have a clean slate build over there in terms of what to do next with painting. So bottom line is I had a real crappy start to the day because it was one of those days, but I had enough time to get some composure, come back, write down what I needed to do, and recovered on 2 builds. And I'd love to pass it around the room. And we always hear about those times when if it's not going your way, put it down, walk away, and don't come back for a while or just forget about it. Well, I chose to do the opposite. I chose to not forget about it. I wanted to fix it as soon as possible. And yeah, I'd just like to hear some feedback from others. So Scott, I'm going to kick it to you first.
I think, I certainly have had my share of those days. That Slave 1 build I did, I think I stripped that model 8 different times. I was trying to get the right chipping effect, and seemed like I just stripped and stripped and stripped, and I kept with it. I think, John, it's interesting that your approach this time was to keep tugging at that string, and I really admire that, because I find when I have days, especially where you had a couple of different things happen to you, where either I need to put it down and go away because something's going to get hurtled against the wall, or I just tend to my frustration builds on itself. But I also know that if you do that and you take that approach, a lot of times those projects will end up on a shelf for a long time. And so I commend you for sticking with it and really, kind of seeing that through, because I think that that'll really pay off for you on both of those projects, because they look great now. You wouldn't even know if you hadn't have seen some of your posts. And by the way, I really love your composure when you said that, well, shoot. Air would have been a little purple over here at the of the modeling basement of doom here. So
yeah, I just, for me, it was just literally taking a deep breath, and it's the same thing I do in life when I run into tough problems. I literally write that down, write down what I need to do to make the situation better. And I'm really surprised. 8 times for that Slave 1? Good Lord. That's why you finish like 1 model a decade.
Well, we can get into that or whatever, but it's just we're
here. What are we doing?
The Lucasfilm models, I don't think they master chipped anything. I think they painted everything on. And so, the way the skirt of the ship is chipped, it looks chipped, is different than the fuselage. And I just couldn't get something I was happy with. So I'm glad I stuck with it. I'm glad. But yeah, there was a time when, I was like, man, this is, I'm becoming the world's best paint stripper. And that's not what I set out to do on this project.
Yeah. And you know what? You noted really something important there. And I'm guilty of it, because I have a few builds that are a decade old where, you hit a roadblock, you walk away, and sometimes you just don't come back. And that's okay too. I don't think that's a problem. It's whatever brings you happiness. And if you don't want to look at something ever again, then get rid of it and move on. But if you have a hope in finishing something, maybe just, again, try it sooner rather than later. And Grant, I'd love to get your feedback on it.
Like Scott, I mean, I really admire your ability to come back. I wish I could say that. There's been too many models that hit the wall behind me. Too many that I've had days like that. We all go through days like that. And I also like your JB. I like your idea of writing it down. I write down everything myself, but I don't do that. I should maybe do that. Just like figure out my day, how I'm going to do, what I'm going to do. It might be just down to, instead of working on a model, I'm just going to clean my desk or, rearrange my paints or something like that. And that just will slow you down. That slows me down. And it makes me feel a lot calmer. That would be a better way to say it, instead of frustrated. I had a problem with my sawmill. I got it. I got it together, and I started putting some Zimmerman on mine, which was this version of a sawmill that was used by the Germans in Finland at the end of the war, fighting the Russians. And it had this really crude Zimmerman on it. And I did it, and it looked so bad. And I ended up just stripping everything off. But I did kind of recover after a couple of days. I'm going to do the prototype version now, and I got the 3D printer going. So I kind of buried myself in 3D printing so I could figure out what I could do to change that. But, you had some great ideas. Another great idea is, just like you said, take your dog for a walk, go for a walk, get away from it for a little bit. We've all had days like that. I had one day, and I don't mean to go over time here or whatever, but, I was rearranging my hobby room a little bit, and I dropped a ultrasonic cutter off my table, which was an expensive piece of material, broke that. And I'm like, okay, fine. Okay. I'm just okay. Then I was moving some other stuff around, and I put my compressor up on a shelf, and of course knocked that off and break that. So within about 15 minutes, I probably broke about $800 worth of equipment. And I was like, I'm done. And then I spilled paint all over my top of my desk, and this was like all in 15 minutes. And I was fuming, and I didn't clear the table for like 3-4 days. I was so upset. But it's that's what I do. And I think the idea of getting back into it is very, very important. Don't let it fester. We all have that shelf of shame, and if we let it fester, that shelf of shame gets bigger. You can only have so many paint mules. So get back on it.
100%. I'm going to kick it over to TJ. I don't think much stops you, TJ.
That is where you would be wrong. A lot of things stop me. The pile of unfinished kits I have probably puts most of you guys to shame. I got a fairly decent sized stash, but I know you guys know, and I know probably a lot of listeners, they pay attention to some of the dumb that comes out of my mouth sometimes, but I keep a spreadsheet of all my kits, including the ones that are in progress. So they're color coded. So all I have to do is pull that thing up, and I got like 20 kits that are in some variety of being built. That doesn't even include like wargaming stuff. That's a whole nother thing. So yeah, a lot stops me. Normally I'm pretty good at just like powering through it. The one I can really remember was, I guess this was almost 2 years ago now, when we were doing the Ryefield T-3485. I found a cool camo scheme. I tried it. It looked like hammered dog. So I was like, oh, that's not going to work. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to do 4BO green, whatever. I'm going to use this, MRP paint, which I've gone on record with. I don't like painting armor with it because it's like, it's as thin as a spider web. It's like
tinted water, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. Beautiful colors. And their 4BO is perfect. The best 4BO color on the planet. But it's like spraying it with air. And it's like, come on, man. Like, I don't have time for this. I painted the whole damn thing, and it is, anyone that's used MRP to paint anything knows it takes forever. And of course I'm doing it over black because I primed over. I didn't even strip it because I don't have time for that either. I just re-primed it black. I'm like, I'm just going to spray this clear water with a little bit of green in it over black because that's a brilliant idea. And I get finished, and or I'm almost done. I think I did the whole chassis, the whole hull and everything, almost done with the turret. I ran out because again. It's the thinnest paint on the planet. And I use a Sotar 2020, which has a paint cup the size of a thimble. So it's no bigger than a thimble. And I pour more paint in. And I kind of like turned, and I don't know if I got caught on something or something happened, but a whole blob of paint flew out of the paint cup, bam, right on the turret roof. And it's lacquer, so of course it just immediately destroys all my work and my pants. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I was pissed. I was so pissed. I was like, okay, it's just paint. And yeah. I waited till it dried. I sanded and sanded. I hate sanding. And I painted it again, and it turned out okay. Yeah. So that time I was like, no, this is not going to defeat me. Recently, lots of things have been defeating me.
This is why TJ, we've discussed in the past, like how he never throws a model away. And it's because he is not going to take any crap from that model. He is going to win that little battle. And there's nothing that model can do.
I refuse. I refuse on principle to throw a kit away. I have a couple that could be thrown away. I have a TACOM Mark 1 female, should be thrown away. I've lost parts to it. I chopped up the machine guns that came with it because I was like, I'm going to use these aftermarket ones, which look awesome. But oh yeah, you got to fold the cooling jacket in a not a circle, in a horseshoe shape, because it's is that a Vickers? I think it's They had a couple of different machine guns. I think this one has the Vickers, the water jacket, water jacket for all my Virginia friends. The water jacket is like a flat bottomed hump. And I'm not good at that, especially 5 years ago when I was deciding to do this. Well, okay, so that got put away. I lost some of the PE, so I don't even have all the guns anymore. I chopped up the original guns because you have to use the receiver, cut the barrel off. So I was like, yeah, whatever. It's in a box over there. I'm not going to throw it away. I'll finish it one day. I've been having one of those days every single day for like the last, I don't know, month. I've been suffering tiny defeats every single time I sit down to model. I was working on the Archelion or whatever. This humpy guy, it's a Mac kit. I think there's a picture of it. I put in the group. Yeah, having to sculpt the freaking joints because they look better sculpted, and I have to do it. But I was like, oh, green stuff sucks, and they look like crap. Because the last one I did look awesome. I'm like, well, these suck. So I'm like, I'm not gonna do that now. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm having a hard time modeling. It wasn't painfully obvious.
No, man, we all get in that mood. Geez, I think it struck me for years, and it's only been, recently that I've gotten out of it. Maybe rounding us off, we'll kick it back to Utah. Doug, if your grandkids haven't distracted you, what else has from maybe getting something finished?
Well, you guys talk about, DJ mentions the number of kits. He does have me beat if he's got 20, but I counted while he was talking, looking around my room, I counted 15 sitting on shelves that I've put off to the side for now for varying reasons. Some of them I'm waiting for paint. I'm waiting for maybe masks for a canopy like that Avenger I started years ago. I did get the mask, but I never got back to the Avenger. I've had a lot of issues like that. I mean, I've told the story of how I was using my Sotar once and I wasn't looking, but I went to set it up on the hook when I was done, in between paint, and I missed the between, instead of setting it between the two hooks, it caught the back one and it went nose first down, bent the needle and the nozzle. So I had to replace all that stuff. The spring issue with it last week, just little things like that happen a lot to me. I did kill the carpet monster when I built my model room. It's got laminate floors, but I still managed to lose stuff down there. I end up having to get a broom out and sweeping it up and then sorting through all the dust from that's built up over a few months and try to find my parts. I don't know. There's a lot of things that'll put me off, but if I really want something done, I'll just work through it. I'll find a way to get around it. I'm not real good. I've never understood the whole stripping paint thing. Not that I don't understand why, but every time I do it, it just seems like I make a mess of it. So I just paint over it most of the time. And if you're painting thin, like I like to, then it's not that big a deal. Yeah, I could definitely find ways to get more done, but I'm always distracted by something. By the way, does anybody want to buy a bull snake? I'm kidding. I'm
Not in the market.
only,
Not today.
I only have 18 of them waiting to go to new homes. So if you're interested, let me know.
No.
We'll send a couple to Grant, Doug.
No.
A male and a female breeding pair. That's what I think he
go.
really wants.
I am definitely afraid of snakes. I mean, I will like jump on a chair and squeal.
Okay, Indiana Jones.
No, yeah. He's lame compared to me.
Yeah, John, this is a great topic. These are great stories. I'm thinking I'd love to hear from the posse on this topic, and have them post, sort of their issues. Like I think you called it just one of those days, but I'd love to hear some of the stories because I'll bet there's some pretty good ones. I mean, Doug and I have been modeling together for decades and he's been present when I reach that special point in a project where there's just no more fun to be had and destruction happens and you make it so that you're not coming back to it for sure.
Scott's A6 that one time. I think it in scale it broke the sound barrier. If you were to, that was a 1/72 scale, so 72 times whatever. It was going faster than the speed of sound in scale.
It's 29. I have 29 kits in progress.
Wow. So
that's only kits. That doesn't include the 3 Warhammer armies I have that aren't done, the 5 Flames of War armies I have that aren't done, the bolt action armies I aren't done, the every other game system I have shit for that isn't done. That's just model kits.
Have any of you been starting a kit? Like you're working on a kit and you're excited about it, you sit down to paint and realize either A, you don't have that color, but you thought you did, or that color is dried up and worthless. How often does that happen to you?
All the time.
All the time. Yep.
Even though I own 1,000 bottles of paint, I still don't have the one I need for the project. Yeah, it's totally applicable. I was going to ask a follow-up question, maybe a 60-second, input from everyone. It seems like we all have a shelf of doom. Seems like we all have kits that have been started. I'd be curious to know, what is your oldest started kit and why have you kept it so long? And I'm going to go around the room and I'll let everyone think. I'll start us off. I have Dragon's initial Tiger 1 release. For some reason, it's sitting right next to me on my bookshelf. I got it right when it was released in 2005. I started it then, and I almost finished it to primer, and it's been sitting like that for about, 17 years. So that's my oldest shelf queen. I'd be curious, Scott, how old is your oldest shelf queen?
So the ones I have still, the oldest one is a Tamiya 1/48 scale Crusader Mark III, and it isn't stuck because I don't like it. I haven't found that paint scheme, that particular vehicle that really gets you all excited to finish it. It's in primer, but I did have a couple of projects on there that I offloaded to a buddy that likes to take half built kits and finish them. I had a Tamiya 35th scale Yog Tiger, and I got about two-thirds of the way through the build and just lost interest in it. I don't build a lot of German stuff anymore. Nothing political. It just doesn't interest me as much as it used to. And that probably was a 12-year-old build. Not 17 years. Not that long.
Mine's almost old enough to buy cigarettes. So, Grant, how about you?
I don't know the year, but it's pretty old. It's when AFV first came out with the original, I think, the British Bofors.
Oh wow,
that's 2000. I don't.
In the aughts, I feel.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In the early aughts, because before that, it was only Lead Sled that had the Bofors.
Yes,
and that was a big release.
Yeah, it was a British version too. So it was like the first one they put out. I've had that thing, and it's, if anybody knows AFV kit, it's like, here's a piece, but here's 79 pieces that fit on that tiny piece.
And 3 of them are broken.
Yeah, or missing. That kit is my oldest. The wheels, you can't get the wheels straight. The gun platform is just a mess, and that's why I've never finished it. I built the US version. That's the one that sailed across the room, hit the wall behind me. That's my oldest kit. It's got to be 17 to 18 years old.
Yeah,
it's old.
That's almost as old as Ivan.
Yeah, and Ivan's probably got,
He's got
He's
three
not-
Tomcats.
He's got 3 Tomcats, which will not get done. I think Ivan, since he's not here, I'm just he said he's got a 20-year-old kid somewhere, so he's not here. He can't say anything. So
Nice. TJ, how about you? I think I saw you checking out your spreadsheet.
So I'm gonna double back. Ivan is like me, has not been modeling that long, so he can't have one that long on his shelf of doom. I've been modeling for 10 years, I think, or maybe 11. It's somewhere around there. So I don't have that much of a history. However, I was looking at my spreadsheet, and I believe the oldest one I have in progress is the Millennium Falcon, 1/72nd scale, fine molds kit. Actually, now that I think about it, let me go ahead and up that to 30 because I have the 1/144 scale version of that kit too that I know I also started. Now I'm looking at my list. I don't have that listed as in progress, but I know for a fact it's almost put together. That one actually might be older. I want to say I got into, I've talked about this multiple times. I think I started building Star Wars kits in 2014, something like that. And I bought those because that's fine molds is what there was. And I got it around there sometime. So yeah, I guess it's 8 years almost. Yeah. So
that's solid.
Yeah.
Can I just say we all want to see either one of those Falcons come to light? That would be awesome.
Yeah, you've been holding out on us. I don't think we've even seen a in progress photo.
No, because I think I didn't do that when I started building it. I'll go find it. The 1/72nd scale one isn't that much. I've done, if anyone has seen that kit, it's got, I think it's 900 pieces. Most of it's the Greeblies on the saucer sections. They did a pretty good job of replicating the kit parts that the original one was built from and just shrinking it down because I think it's Fine Molds one, Doug might know, and Scott, you might know too. The Fine Molds one's based off of the 5-foot model, if I'm not mistaken. There was a 5-foot filming model and a 3-foot filming model. I think the Fine Molds one is based off the larger 3 landing gear one. I think, I don't know. I don't care. It's minutia at this point. It's based off of one of them that I know of the 2 models they built for Star Wars and then Empire Strikes Back. Yeah. So all the whole saucer section is just covered in Greeblies, just random crap. And I did my due diligence and I circled each one as I glued it on because there's a million of them. So I've done the whole top that I know on the rear, aft, and I think that's about it. And I think I cut the engines out because the kit engines aren't good. And I bought resin ones that you glue in from the bottom and you put a photo etch screen on top. So that they're really nice. I might have even painted them black just so I didn't have to do it later. Yeah. And then the small one, the 1/44th he's tiny. That one I think is almost put together. I decided to replace all the piping on the saucer because I'm an idiot. I tried to use plastic and it did not want to bend. Shocker. And I think I got pissed and was like, yeah, I'm not going to do this anymore. I need to get some brass wire. I don't think I ever did.
Well, we're going to wrap this up with Doug. Tell us what your oldest build is, and it can't be a bull snake.
No, the bull snakes are only a couple months old. So I mentioned before the Avenger I have. I got the TBF-1C Avenger from Accurate Miniatures when it was a new release. Thanks to Scalemates, I know that was 1996. Probably started it within the next few years. So it's been on the shelf for 23 years.
Winner.
Woo! Old enough to drink. It can buy all ours beer.
I ordered some canopy masks because it's hard enough to hand cut masks for a regular canopy. But if you've seen the Avenger, there's going to be 20 panels on there that I have to put these pieces on. So I waited for that, and then I was a little disappointed. There's a little spiny-looking thing on the belly of the plane towards the tail that I just didn't think looked right. And this goes back to what we talked about before when I took it out of the box about 6 months ago. I said, "Hey, that looks fine." A little touch-up, and I paint it, and you'll never be able to tell that it wasn't exactly. It's not exactly how it's supposed to be. So it's up there, and I think it's going to actually get done in the next few months. Because it's ready. I'm going to do the North Atlantic anti-submarine squadrons and just have some fun with it.
Nice.
Those schemes are great.
Yeah. I see TJ's grab the 1/144th?
Yeah.
Nice.
pretty good from here, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So photo etch cooling fans on the top.
This is the 1/144 scale one. Yeah, I don't even know what the hell I was doing. I've clearly shaved some sort of detail off the side here like an idiot. So hopefully I had a plan for that. I don't know. The bottom, I'll take a picture of it. You can see I did not know what the hell I was doing. For all the conduits, actually, some of them don't look too bad. I'm a little impressed because I was just a wee little lad when I was doing this. Ugh. I might have to pop that off and try to do it again. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, Scott. I don't think this one's ever going to get built.
No, you can't let it beat you, man. You got a record to it.
Yeah, but I have the Bondi one, so I can just build that one. It's better.
So here's a couple things to wrap up this segment. I got two things. One is let's all take a photograph, and then when this episode drops, I'll post it on our page and share it in the group. And then I'd ask our listeners to post their oldest shelf queen with that photograph as well. In addition to that, I'd like to challenge all of us. Maybe can we make a bet 1 year from now we have that oldest shelf queen finished? Loser buys a Comet. I'm just saying.
For all four of us, all five.
I'm buying comets.
Buying Comets.
Grant's just gonna get a case of them.
You and
I
Ivan
don't
can
know.
split it.
I would love to finish the Falcon.
All right, let's do it. A year. A year's a long time.
I just don't know if I can.
Come on.
Dude, some brass tubing from the local hobby shop, and you'll be right back
It
in
needs
business.
to be. That's the problem. It's
Just
gotta
throw a
be
tarp on it.
tiny. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's on the bottom, so I can't. I could. I mean, it had a tarp on it on Jakku and Force Awakens.
Exactly.
There you go.
No, I'll think about it because the
All
Falcon
right.
is the best, and that kit's
Yeah.
actually pretty good.
Oh.
And now I remember why I shaved off the sides. If anyone is familiar with the Falcon, with the center piece that sticks out in between the mandibles, it kind of like it's like a trapezoid shape, right? Like that's the whole. And there's like two pieces, like on the top and bottom. On the side there, on the filming model, it looks like they just took plasticard and cut random shapes and to add, for more greaves and detail on the side. And now I remember I was watching it, Dr. Faustus. I love his videos. He has a whole build video of. That's why I decided to do the tubing on the bottom because he did it. He did that because he poured over the pictures and was like, yeah, there should be these geometric shapes that are like slightly off the surface. And since the way that piece is molded, you lose that detail on the bottom side, because it's not, I mean, you guys have anyone that's built models that anything that's curved, you lose detail on the side from the mold. And that's why he did it. So I did it. And then I just never glued the replacement pieces on because I don't know. Who knows? I was clearly in way over my head.
Nice. All right. Well, I still think a year from now, maybe we'll revisit this shelf queen and loser has to buy something. I mean, we're already getting comments from Ivan. Maybe we should just expand the bet to all of us because he ain't finishing them. Anyway, let's wrap up this segment. It's episode 55. Take us home with some cross promotion, Grant.
The Plastic Posse is just one of several great scale modeling podcasts. You can head over to modelpodcast.com and you will find a link to them, as well as several related blogs and vlogs. Please remember to check out the Make group build on Facebook. And if you aren't a member already, go ahead and join. One last thing, please consider reviewing the Triple P podcast platform you use or on Facebook. Each 5-star review helps other modelers find the Plastic Posse.
And thanks for joining us for episode 55. You can send your feedback, suggestions, and corrections to Ivan. He will be answering them personally this next episode and will give you the best English accent he has. And to do that, please send them over to plasticpossepodcast@gmail.com. We hope that each of you gets to spend time at your bench and enjoy the greatest hobby out there. So until next time, keep scale modeling and yeehaw!
Nice. You forgot to have a good life.
Have a good life, loser.
Just bury Ivan in emails, everybody.
Thanks, guys. TJ, get some rest, man.
I'm going to bed.
You had a long day.
Tired.
Yeah, dude, but you went fishing. I'm a little jealous. I've been fishing over a year.
I know John knows because if he saw it in the chat, I started drinking beer at 6 o'clock this morning. So I didn't drink beer all day.
I don't drink beer, but I understand that's usually a no-no.
Not when you're fishing.
Not when you're fishing.
Then I had a Bloody Mary. It was delicious.
Fish and golf is when you can start drinking at any time during the day.
I mean, I wasn't going to, but everyone else was doing it, and I'm a sucker for peer pressure. So,
All right.
The beer was there, so I wasn't going to let it go undrank. All right, guys.
All right. Adios, amigo.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
See you guys later.